semifinals before the finals. And hopefully we put a good show today. I'm very excited.
I'm very, very excited. Yeah, we are about to get started. Taking a look at the players. Here's Metranos. You saw him yesterday, wreaking havoc with that gold weather. I know, it's fantastic. I think Metranos and Andy Wand definitely are like the tier 1 player pictures.
Yes.
Andy Wand's was pretty beautiful,
well,
too.
Tailbot was very solid, too.
Tailbot was solid. That was
he was like a card
too.
game villain, you know. It was really cool. But yeah, Mr. Metranos here with the lineup that we saw yesterday. A very interesting, set of decks. We see the Croc on Crate list, in my opinion, is the most weird deck, if you would label it like that. I really like it, though. I like the fact that he takes a different approach with Skeleguy. I always love seeing Hensoldt. This is actually like one of the coolest lineups because it's one of the most unique. But now the surprise factor is gone, like we said, and we'll see just how well he fares against JJ. And JJ has a rather similar lineup, but with the difference of King Brand instead of Croc on Crate. And he was very dominant. Last time around, he managed to reverse sweep Andy. After losing the first 2 games, his strategy of targeting Dagon was very efficient, and he managed to reverse sweep and win 3 games in a row, not giving Dagon any chance of victory. And it's going to be interesting because this time around, neither of both players are actually bringing monsters.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing 8 monster target decks going up against absolutely no monsters. So the bans... I expected this double
surprise
ban. Yeah, just taking out that Spies gameplay. None of that this morning. Thank you very much. This afternoon, even. But what we are going to see is we're going to see similar lineups. But yeah, it's going to come down to the Crack and the Brand. The difference.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see that Croc deck again, especially with the Axeman, the double. It's just such a different style, and I like this strategy. I also love seeing Burn a Brand, and I really like him going for Crack to be able to pull Morkvarg. He doesn't really want to play with Ceres, and I think maybe carryover will definitely be a very important factor there. I don't know how he will fare against a deck like King Brand with a lineup that's really benefits from long games, but is not as strong as a short round.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Emir ban, Metranos banning Emir is also interesting because that's potentially you might have looked at banning Bruiser because that can deal with the weather the best. Because even though JJ knows the weather's there, it's still a powerful tool and you can still put it to great use. So interesting ban from Metranos, but we're going to go into a Scoia'tael mirror match to kick things off.
Here we go. Bruiser versus Bruiser. Both players, we know that Roach is just in absolute love with JJ. She will always appear in his opening hand. But fortunately, he's able to mulligan that away as we see the Operator in the hand of Metranos. But it's really funny because in this matchup, it's just kind of like, what is he going to do?
I mean, well, you can use it in a couple of different ways. Like, obviously, primarily you want to operate that Agitator and give it to an opponent who isn't running any dwarves, right?
Exactly.
Like, that's like the great target. But you could punish the row stacking by operating a Trapper. You may well get way more value out of it than your opponent does.
Good point.
You could do a Marksman if you're going into a Zoltan Chevet combo. There's a few things here that you can do.
But it's definitely going to be way more clunky to play.
Oh, yeah. It's way more awkward to pull off, for sure.
It's rather like power level wise, I think, for a silver in this particular matchup is going to be very low. But barring that, like we see a very solid hand on both players. We see the double weather actually in the hands of Superjj with Geralt Ard. He has all the tools. Both players with Scorch, very similar hands. This is actually really funny. Like both players have, but the thing is, Metranos is not carrying any sort of gold weather in his opening hand, which may make the difference.
Well, it's an interesting one, actually, because it may make a difference, but perhaps not necessarily in the way that you'd imagine, because there are answers to this weather, right? I mean, we're already seeing one Vryhead sitting there waiting to clear a row out, but the question is there anything else that he can pull? I mean, he's got...
Oh, I like this lead with the Yavin, perhaps.
Yeah.
This is such a strong play. Because the Vryhead Officer gains the base strength of the units that you replace, Yavin with that 12 strength buffs him up to 16. A 16 bronze play. Such a strong combo and an excellent lead because it's a play that doesn't really require your opponent to have anything on the board. It's just purely proactive. I like this a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Proactive play is always taking precedence in the first turn of the game because, of course, if you've got no targets, you can't target anything. But we do see Metranos with a Scorch in his hand, so he does have answers to high-value units, but being forced out of your Scorch this early would really actually, heavily impact the rest of the game for you. So it'll be interesting to see what Metranos goes for. We could see the Barclay Elves try to catch up in tempo a little bit. We could see Bruiser come out. Yeah, it's a really nice opening move by JJ for sure.
He could lead off with a double-bladder Marksman, but we have seen several players in Gwentslam preserve the Marksmen for later down the line and try to resort to the Dwarven Agitators for round one. Metranos really, really thinking what to do here, and it seems like he's just going to immediately drop that Scorch.
Yeah, and this is a really interesting Scorch because while obviously, hey, Scorch 16-point unit, fantastic. The thing is, you don't have any units on the board, so the board state doesn't actually swing in your favor, it just resets. So JJ just sacrificed a bronze card to force a Scorch out of Metranos. Like, it's a really good
He
trade.
literally traded a bronze for a silver.
Exactly.
He literally traded that. That's
upgraded
so good.
that officer.
Yeah.
And he's going to be happy with that. Like, obviously, losing your points isn't great, but board state reset, you're 1 bronze down. Metranos has lost a Scorch, which is such a core card.
Yeah.
Really, really momentous play.
While JJ still has his own Scorch and has the potential to line up multiple targets with cards like Dolblath and a Marksman, Geralt Dard, he has ways to damage what their opponent is generating. So if he selects his targets properly, he could lead to some insane value gains, as JJ is really concentrated debating what to go for here. It's a little bit difficult because that first play with he's just going to go, okay. With the pass. I guess not wanting to deal with the loss of the coin flip, and this kind of deck thrives on a long round anyway. So it's when I asked JJ yesterday like why he does this a lot, is because this kind of deck that is not really super strong in a short round, if you pass immediately like round 1, your opponent, either 2 things happen. He tries to push you really hard round 2, or he immediately passes after that and you have a long round 3, which is what you want anyways.
Yeah, absolutely, especially using those gold weathers. I mean, the longer the round goes, the scarier those become. This is actually an opportunity for Metranos to drop the Operator out of his hand, and he thinks the card's too troublesome because it won't proc, because Operator only works if people haven't passed. He could just drop the Operator now to take the round and ensure a less clunky version of his own hand. And I actually agree. I actually think that would be the great thing for him to do.
And he does. And he indeed does do that.
It's almost like these guys are good at Gwent. But it's, so we see the Operator coming down to give him the round. Really nice way of taking that. He doesn't spend a core card. And honestly, with the weathers sitting about, he can row stack pretty easily with those mercenaries. He also has Kieran for the lock. I like Metranos' hand in this matchup.
Yeah, both hands are looking somewhat similar, though. Obviously, the determining factor between them is the lack of weather for Metranos still, and he is stuck with Roach. Oh, that is really
That's so
unfortunate.
interesting, though, that he chose to not mulligan the Roach, but he got the second weather clear out. That's actually pretty big.
What is... I missed his mulligan. What did he mulligan instead?
That's a good question. I didn't actually see what he clicked, but it was...
What could it have been if it maybe... That's weird.
Was it a card he drew because the rest of his hand looks the same? It must have been a card that he drew. My apologies, I wasn't looking at JJ's hand. But and he just goes to the dry pass. Okay, so he's going to just stick that Roach back in there.
Both these decks thrive in a long round. It's really going to come down to how impactful the gold weather is, because even though he is carrying double overhead brigade, this kind of deck only truly needs 1 row to stick with weather. That's all you truly need, because you can start moving units to that row with your Dwarven Agitators that are generating the mercenaries, your Zoltan Cheve, Geralt Dard. You have so many different ways of basically changing the positioning of a card, and if you have that 1 row, that's pretty much all you need to get ridiculous value, because in a long round like this, that's pretty nutty.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is here, he actually has double gold weather in hand, meaning that he can play a weather, get out both those bright-head weather clears. And then, basically, Metranos will be like, fantastic, I'm in the clear. I can now just avoid the 1 row with the weather on, and then he can play the second gold weather. So the 2 gold weathers in this is a 12-card round 3. That's not a very common thing.
Yeah, you don't get to see that.
When you have gold weathers at your disposal, that is like the ideal round for you. He can also, even if weather gets cleared, he's got tools like Ard, he's got tools like Mercenaries to really just throw things back into the weather over and over again. And then he has the Lacerate as well to punish the safe row stack. So because of the length of this round, JJ's hand looks fantastic.
Yeah, JJ's hand looks extremely well. And honestly, there is no reason not to go for Ragnarok right here. You get Roach out of the deck as well. And even if he focuses on clearing weather anyways, you have all this movement to go for. So the earlier you go for that, the better. The more value you'll get. And that was a pretty straightforward play right there. As I do agree, Metranos' hands looks really solid. That Yavin, my question is... Yeah, it's fine. He still has several silvers he can go for, and if not, he'll just search for a Dwarven Agitator with his own Brewer.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the problem in his now, he's playing against Gold Weather, but he actually has a couple of row-locked units. You got the Trapper set to the range row, and you got Barclay El's Haster and Siege row. So he will have to play into Weather at some point against his will. But it looks like he's actually going to Yavin and get his own Gold Weather out. He's going to get Drought out. Yavin, of course, fantastic for pulling that. And it's just gonna turn this into one huge Weatherfest. But the second Gold Weather application available for JJ could be enough to clinch him it.
Fiery Fields at the movies. That's basically this game. It's just they're gonna set the field on fire and everything's going to get hit. We'll see if like anything actually lives till the very end of this round because I feel a lot of warriors are going to go down in this game.
Yeah, I think that there's going to be a lot of damage on both sides here, and it's really interesting. Like, JJ is actually in a weird position. Like, does he just set up the Marksman? There's no other...
He has nothing to target. He has nothing to clear. You're right.
Play.
Yeah, no. Like, I guess, Dwarven Mercenary to just buff your Roach, move it to there. Like, that's really the only thing you can go for. It's going to be interesting to see, like, what they are aiming to search for with Brewer, because we're looking at the list right here. When it comes to JJ, he can search for... Well, there's no silver. Like, I think it's just the Dwarven Agitator left for him. Unless, no, he doesn't have Kieran.
He's got
no,
Kieran.
Kieran. That's very solid. That's a very solid
That's
pull.
a very, very solid pull indeed, especially to shut down some of that Marksman tempo. You can even lock the trap if you are going to get massively punished by the row stack. But
it's really cool. We got Ragnaru versus Drought.
Yeah, it's sort of like, well, you know, you love Gold Weather, so let's have both on the field. But it's going to be interesting for JJ. I mean, he's got to time these brigades. He knows that there's double weather for Metranos, right? So he doesn't know if he has his second one or not. He knows that he had Drought from Yavin. So he fished for a special with Yavin. Yeah. JJ doesn't know.
That's important to know that he knows. Like, that's a very important thing to know. Like, he knows that he drew the Gold Weather.
Yeah, not many people actually realize that's how Yavin works. Sometimes Yavin draws a unit and a special card. So when you're only running, like, you know you've played the Scorch, he knows the only other special cards in Metranos' decks are the Gold Weather, so therefore he knows Yavin gave him the Gold Weather. So with that knowledge in mind, he can play around it. He's got to hope that Metranos does not have that second Gold Weather available.
The difference between these two players, even though their decks are pretty similar, one very key difference is JJ is running Lacerate while Metranos is running the Dolblath and a Trapper. If Metranos were to get the Dolblath were to play the Dolblath and a Trapper, JJ can actually go Brewer into Kieran and lock it and just deny that, while his Lacerate is not going to be stopped. And row stacking, while it may be a necessity to avoid all this Gold Weather, it's going to lead to like very strong swings later down the line because Lacerate is going to hit very hard.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's such a core point that you can lock a trap, but you can't lock a Lacerate.
No.
So I think the Lacerate
maybe someday, but not now. Yeah.
will be very important here. But, you know, you've got to also look at Metranos' hand and say, okay, double Marksman and Zoltan in hand. That alone is a ton of value. The thing is, that's going to do work. Like, you know, that turns Zoltan into doing 6 damage to each opponent he moves. And that immediately makes him a 26-point card if you have double Marksmans on the board. So
yeah, not only Zoltan, but we see right there the Kieran, who also moves. Yeah. We see the Overhead Brigade, which could be used offensively, and Barclay Els, which is more likely going to pull a Dwarven Mercenary.
Yeah, especially with double Agitators too. I mean, there's a ton of tempo coming off the back of these Marksmen. And Kieran to lock this initial Marksman would actually really, really set the value plays in Metranos' favor.
I think Metranos should immediately answer this Marksman. Like, I think he should. It's just very dangerous, especially with cards like Geralt Dart. He knows his lineup too. Like this, what better lock target are you gonna get than this? Like, you know your opponent's not playing Dolblath and a Trapper. Like,
yeah, he's not waiting for any better lock really. I mean, the only card that's actually going to particularly have a passive effect on the board is going to be that Marksman. Like, that's the only thing that's going to have an ongoing effect. Sadly, you can't lock the Gold Weather, so it's going to be that Marksman. And
this is
going to set the value massively in favor.
This is awkward because both players have cleared the same row, which means that if they develop any unit to move the other guy to that row, like, for example, the Overhead Brigade, well, the Overhead Brigade clears the weather. But in the case of Kieran, he was debating about playing it in either the melee or the range row for the weather to start hitting the Marksman, but the problem is he would potentially lose more strength in that because he would lose 9.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it was awkward there.
He'd likely follow it up with the weather clear as well, which is just going to open the way for JJ's second Gold Weather. So there are so many key components at play in this match. There's the double Marksman Zoltan combo. Yeah. There's the double Gold Weather. There's an Ard sitting there. There's a Lacerate that's going to be huge. There's a ton of movement. So honestly, both Brewers are still in play as well. There is so many core things at work here because of the length of this round that it's nearly impossible to call at this stage.
Yeah, it's very hard. Sequencing is going to be everything here. As we see the Dwarven Agitator being played, oh, very nice. Going to be using it proactively. Again, because both players have, you know, the same rows on fire, that you can't, it kind of like, it really hinders your gameplay a little bit. It takes away from your ability. But I don't think Superjj having both Scorch and Lacerate in his hand cares as much about that? I think Dory Mercer should rightfully be utilized proactively here.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right in just saying that when you're both forced onto the same row, but then you're also playing cards where you want to move your opponents into other rows. Because of how most card movement effects work in Gwent, they have to be played on the same row. Things become a little muddy.
I like that expression.
It's like, haha, I've pulled you into the weather by standing in the weather and pulling you into it.
And I'm going to die.
Yeah, it's like, I'm going to burn with you. It's not necessarily a good game plan.
The first Marksman hits the board. I think Metranos will likely be playing the other one unless he needs to react to something immediately. And the question is, will JJ go for the Cairn now? I think, again, the same thing can be applied. But this time around, Metranos not only has the Marksman, he has the Double Blast and a Trapper. So JJ knows this because both players have their deck lists changed. But it seems like he's not going to wait for that, and he's going to get to work. Never mind. He's not going to lock that. He's going to go for Yavin instead. And that's another Marksman. That's huge, especially with Geralt Ard in his hand. That's really good.
Yeah, that's extremely good. Although, actually, with Geralt Ard in hand, Marksman will only fire if the cards are moved, and while Geralt Ard can target units on the siege row, it doesn't count as moving them, so the Marksman won't fire at them. So, for the Marksman to work with Geralt Ard, Metranos needs to play some units in the fire.
That's a very good point. It's going to be, how is he going to do it? Because he has 2 more cards that can move things around. The Red Brigade and the Agitator.
He's got to clear his own melee row. Because, it's what we were talking about earlier. He's playing as if Metranos has his second gold weather. He doesn't know that he doesn't. So, he's going to play he should play his weather clear in the melee row, or the range row, so then he can pull units in. Because once he creates that safe pocket to pull units in, he can get his movement effects ticking. Yeah. But he thinks there's a second gold weather, and he thinks if he does that, he's just going to get Ragnarok. So it's a little bit rough.
Yeah, it is. The second Marksman hits the board. Double Marksman. This could be the deciding factor of this game. The fact that these 2 Marksmen are going to stick around, and it seems like JJ's not going to be able to answer them anymore. That could really win Metranos this game here. The combos ahead with Zoltan Cheve and the likes of Barclay L's double Agitator. He's got a lot of movement. Every time he moves a unit, it will receive 4 damage. That is massive.
Yeah, that's really, really major. And, you may be like, 4 points, why emphasize that so much? But when you're playing 400 cards that move things, it tends to add up quite a lot. Yeah. And especially when you're using combination with the awesome, combos with the Zoltan, Cheve and stuff, really make it such a fantastic card. But there's just so much row stacking going on here. I mean, that Lacerate is going to have mad value. That Trapper...
No longer can he answer it. Yeah, he could potentially move it with a mercenary.
Yeah, he could actually, because the trap is 1 strength, what he could actually do is he could play an agitator, move it with a mercenary to another row, and the trap wouldn't even go off because the trap would get hit by the drought and it would die. Actually, no, it wouldn't because the drought would take at the start of the turn, so that's complete nonsense. But yes, he can pull it to a different row. It's an expensive way though, right? Because then you're setting up that mercenary to just take weather damage, but you are saving yourself a lot of points. There's just so many key moments coming up in this game. There's still a Scorch sitting in JJ's hand.
Yeah. He's got, the Lacerate and the Scorch have very, very high potential. As he does, oh, wow. He really wants that Marksman gone. Not bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sacrificing the body of the mercenary. I think this is a very solid play by Metranos.
Yeah, I think absolutely, because while you're putting, a 7 into the Ragnarok, the amount of damage you're denying by removing that Marksman from the game, it's going to force the weather clear. This is when he's going to find out, returning the favor, this is when he's going to find out if that second gold weather's kicking about.
I think this is the turn in which Metranos may drop that Red Brigade, and I think JG is waiting for exactly that to be able to play Drow, because the longer he waits for Drow, the less value it's going to give him, and at this point of the match, Drow can perhaps provide him with 4 damage each turn, which, throughout 4 turns, for example, is 16 value overall. If it's 5 turns, which would mean he would have to play it now, it would be 20. And obviously that depends on so many more things because they're uneven numbers, so there would be a point where they're 1. But my whole point here is that he has to play Drow either next turn or the turn after that. Otherwise, it's just not going to provide him with any value.
Yeah, I mean, if the Brigade does come down here to clear a second row, I expect to see it immediately answer with the Drought, because that's the golden opportunity, right?
But it seems like that's not going to be the case.
Yeah, it seems like another Dwarven.
This is actually pretty bad for Metranos.
He's killing the Marksman.
For JJ, sorry, because the fact that he's delaying that clear is really making this Drought awkward.
It certainly is. I mean, he still does have value on the Scorch. He's got 12 points on it because the Yavin was damaged. But, like, yeah, there's that drought is not looking fantastic. I mean, you could just pop it now, but the problem is it's going to be hitting units that'll just get killed by the Lacerate for the first 2 turns that it's ticking, right?
Exactly.
It's going to hit those Agitators. They die to the Lacerate regardless. It's not actually going to do anything.
He's going to Lacerate now.
Oh, wow.
Ooh. I wonder why he triggered that now. I guess he's trying to preserve a Scorch for like the latest of plays, but interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Interesting.
Metranos is just tanking the Ragnarok right now, so maybe we do see the Weather Clear come out. But like you say, the more turns that run on, the less value that drought gets, the less scary it becomes. But Ard and Scorch will be doing damage, although Scorch is blocked now by his own Lacerate. That Lacerate has denied the Scorch opportunity, which is...
Because his own Yavin is stronger. It's an issue. Like, if he... Like, right now, looking at Metranos' hand, Barclay Els... The thing is, that if Barclay Els pulls something like a Dwarven Agitator, that's a very low base strength unit anyway, so it's not going to... But if he pulls something like a Dwarven Mercenary, then that will become the new Scorch target, potentially.
Although it's just tied at 10,
it's
actually.
tied, exactly.
So unless that Marksman had, RNG'd up and shot the Yavin, unfortunately...
He goes for it immediately.
He just knows.
Oh my God! No, you can clearly tell.
No,
no. You can feel the pain.
Honestly, you can't see us right now, but we're both feeling the pain. My goodness.
Oh, man.
Absolutely horrible moment for JJ.
He didn't take that into consideration, and that Scorch was worth absolutely nothing because it killed his own 10 unit, and that's a 0 value Scorch, which we were talking about Scorch's entire match, like the fact that he forced Scorch so early on Metranos by, going for the head officer turn 1. And we saw, there's such a huge advantage to get that Scorch later down the line and be able to be very selective with it, but now he kind of he messed up.
It's such a horrible moment. He just actually forfeits straight out of the game.
Yeah.
Just getting out of the game. It's a horrible moment for JJ for sure. That's you never like seeing that. I mean, I know that it's sort of it's one that makes the highlight reels, but it's so horrible when that happens. It's so easy to do because in JJ's peripheral vision, he'll have seen the red number on the Yavin, assumed it was less than 10 when actually it had just been hit by the Ragnarok that was played after it. And
it's very easy to make those kind of mistakes, but hey, that's what playing a tournament is. Like, you gotta think about all your plays, and JJ can definitely come back from this. I've seen him compete a lot, and he doesn't get too tilted. Like, he knows he's prone to making mistakes sometimes, but if he's on his A game, he's very hard to stop. And we see Metranos with the Squatel win, but this is still a long series ahead of us. I think.
That's actually. You're 100% right there. Like, JJ is an incredibly competitive player, and this is actually where, this is a pretty big test of it, right? He needs to keep his mental composure.
Yes, exactly.
And if any player can do it, it's JJ. Like, the guy is, like, competitiveness incarnate. But, he needs to keep his composure, not let that get to him, because that is, I could say, that would get to me. Yeah. Like, if I just done
that would destroy me.
I would just be, like, constantly being like, oh, well, I'm 1-0 down because I just scorched my own unit, but... It's a horrible moment for JJ. I wonder if the concede there was slightly premature though. Like,
I really think I wonder in general, like, if that even mattered ultimately, because I think Metranos ended up being in a very strong position. That drought was going to be very weak. He already used his Lacerate, and that was like his highest source of output. Geralt Dark was going to be 15 points. Yeah, because as you said, everything was in the Siege row, so he wasn't going to be able to move anything, and thus the Dolblast and a Marksman was not going to be able to trigger. So I think he was already in a very bad spot, and it was looking grim for him. But that Scorch definitely sealed it. we can say that.
Unfortunate moment for JJ, and one I'm sure that he's going to carry with him into his next game. But he needs to shake it off as we head into the next game. It's going to be an interesting one. I can hear the game loading up.
Yep.
I can't see it yet, so I don't know who's playing. Oh, we've got Hensoldt.
Yes.
Versus Mahakam was not billed in day. Mr. Bruverhoog himself. So we're going into a Hensoldt versus Bruverhoog match.
Which is also fitting to the lore itself of The Witcher. Hensoldt facing Scoia'tael.
All right. Ooh, a little bit of background knowledge there. Very nice.
Are you proud of me?
Yeah, very nice
I
color
did my
commentary.
research.
Yeah,
thank
very
you.
good. That enhanced the experience for me. This should be an interesting match. And one of the things that's a good sign to me of JJ keeping his focus is that he's decided to run with the same deck. Like, it would be very easy to be like, no, screw this and playing something else. Don't want to see that deck. JJ's just like, nope, just going to reset. play that deck again.
This is a completely new game, a completely new match. Nothing that happened before matters. Like right now, obviously he, like you can't even say he gave him information because the deck lists have been exchanged. So it's just, you know, get back to the drawing board. Just ignore what happened. Focus. Go super Lifecoach focus mode. Yeah.
Exactly. Get the tunnel vision going, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
But
I think we may see the same opening actually.
I think you're probably right. And also, we do see the Cadveni Sergeant sitting there, which is going to be very, very instrumental in clearing this weather up. Yeah.
It's funny because both of these players are very teched with weather, and they very geared towards defeating Dagon, but at the same time, they're also like very, even though they're carrying like so much weather, they're also like very prepared for it too. So it's exciting because, you know, when you have weather being removed, like it's going to be very key to time it properly, and I think that's one of the things he struggled with in the prior game with that drought. Like that double gold weather for like a long round, it just didn't end up working out for him. Because
absolutely. But I think this is so representative. Actually, it's like are we watching a replay? I just don't know what's going
Deja
on.
vu.
It's like
this poor officer, man. He tries really hard every time.
I know, right? He gets paid hazard pay there, so it's fine. But I mean, one of the best things about Gwent balancing right now is the decks are so interactive. Like, if you go back and watch previous tournaments, there was a lot of very proactive decks, like dwarves.
Play a dwarf, buff a dwarf.
Yeah,
play a dwarf,
buff a dwarf, forehead. Yeah, it's like, you know, there's a lot of proactive, but actually the decks now are really interactive
I
in
agree
nature.
completely.
Even stuff like Hensoldt, which, you know, spamming out points with the siege supports,
Machine.
ballistas and Dorigaray. Dorigaray is a questionable card, but, you know, like, there's all sorts of, like,
well, I think he's running
well.
Dorigaray because of the weather.
Absolutely. Yeah. Drowner from Dorigaray is so fun.
Drowner is so good right now.
Drowner is such a fierce card. Like, monsters, you know, it suffers in its bronze strength a little bit, but Drowner is a fantastic
It's
card.
super powerful. We see the Ragnarok being applied immediately by JJ as Metranos is. I like the fact that the inclusion of Roach makes it so that when you go for that gold weather play, you're still generating strength, which is, you know, very important, especially in a state like this, because he could, like, if it wasn't for Roach, he could not have made this play.
Yeah, absolutely, and especially early on in rounds when, you know, things like passing exists. It's very binary, isn't it? It's like, well, you have points on the board, the other guy doesn't, he can't pass.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Roaches, I agree. And I actually agree with JJ's love of Roach. Like, I like Roach in most decks that I build. But for this reason, you play a gold or you play a low tempo, and Roach is there to
points.
help provide it. It's 3 points and deck thinning, and it's a good horse. But it's, I really like the inclusion of Roach here. We're going to see it on both sides. However, we are going to see the immediate weather clear coming down.
I really enjoy watching Machine Hensoldt. It's one of my favorite archetypes in Gwent. It's just very fun, especially with the ballistas, lining everything up and starting getting that insane value. It's kind of like it is similar to Spy Nilfgaard in a way because of the fact that it has a slow start.
Yeah.
But once it gets going and you have like the crewmans on the board and you start having a bunch of targets and the ballistas are getting the damage, the battering rams are getting the value, you start generating a lot of value all of a sudden, and it's kind of like a snowball effect in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right with that. I think Ballista is just undeniably such a satisfying card.
Oh, yeah, it's one of my favorite cards to play.
You know, I was watching
That's
Final
interesting.
Game. That is interesting. He set up crewman, I think. And it's like a weather clear and a crewman on the board, right? So
but like he left Roach to like he didn't do it on the melee, bro.
Yeah, that's actually kind of curious. I think
maybe because he has like a siege locked unit in Dorigaray and he doesn't really care about Roach at that point.
Yeah, that could be the case. It could also just be that he knows JJ's got the Lacerate in here, and if he's going to be forming up crewman pockets and deploying those ballistas and Hensoldt, you're going to want to spread that out over the board a bit naturally, because if you stack up one row, you're just going to get smashed by that Lacerate. But yeah, it's kind of an interesting one. He also knows JJ's runs Ard, so if you put it in the melee row, he may just get Arded, which is not the nicest way to go. But yeah, it's an interesting play. I think Metranos is in a pretty okay board state. You know, there is a drought sitting there, but JJ's not going to reapply that in this round. I don't think he'll probably want that for a longer round 3 or so. But Metranos, like, if he gets these siege supports on the board, he's going to start racking up some major tempo.
But he is focusing more on clearing weather first. Like, this is one of the things that I was referring to earlier. Like, because both players know each other's deck list, he knows 100% their opponent is playing drought, and he has to be careful with weather clearing, because if he overcommits, he may fall prey to this. We may see drought happen now.
Yeah.
Or
maybe
not, because he still has movement, but you could make an argument for it.
I mean, the problem with the initial drought is that it would actually open up potentially a pass.
But I like this play first, though.
Yeah, I like this, but the problem with the drought is it may open up a pass, right? Because, like, the first turn, it won't even deal any damage. So then you're going to need to play points onto the board. So
because all you even did was revert the coin flip.
Yeah, quite, exactly. Yeah. But I think it's, I like the weather colours coming out here. Dagon, sorry, not Dagon. I've seen too much Dagon, I've gone mad. Hensoldt has got to the point where he's going to start putting real tempo on the board. You're going to see siege supports come down.
Yeah.
You're going to see ballistas start deploying, and that's he already has double 8 targets for the ballistas, so he can already get 4 points of damage off deploying one of those right now next to a crewman. I think this round's about to get very pointy for Metranos, and JJ will really have to commit in terms of whether it's
And it's hard for him to find good value with that Scorch at the same time, because Machine Hensoldt is not known as a deck for generating very massive units. It's all about spreading your strength and also reacting to what your opponent is doing and wiping out their board as efficiently as you can. And because of that, the Scorch is going to be very awkward for JJ to implement correctly here. Even though he has a very powerful hand, technically, because he has both Zoltan and Ard, he has no Dual Blast and a Marksman to combine with that. The Lacerate is also not looking that powerful, especially because Metranos is stacking his units, spreading them across different rows. He's aware of what his JJ has, so trouble approaches. Down goes the siege support. And we'll see how he reacts to that.
I think you're so right about the awkwardness of Scorch against Hensoldt, because Hensoldt doesn't care about having high points on his units. He cares about ripping your face off with a ballista. Yeah, exactly. So we do see the lot come out here. Kieran's pretty nice here, but again, that is like a pretty definitive Scorch block. Like with Kieran on the board, Hensoldt's not going to play anything stronger than that. So yeah, Kieran is
very good point.
Just going to disallow Scorch from this round. But it is nice to lock the siege support. It is fortunate for Metranos that he does have another siege support in hand, because even one of those is going to add value, especially as it does like buffing machines. And if you do choose to Hensoldt out those ballistas, it's very nice indeed. But I think that the points margin is so close that right now I do kind of like the position that Hensoldt's in.
The issue with Metranos right now is the fact that he's already used Scorch so early, and that's a bit of that's a considerable hindrance for Machine Hensoldt, because Scorch is one of the reasons why the deck can actually win games, because they really struggle with big units, like large units like that can stack up a lot of strength just for themselves, because the Ballista doesn't like that. Ballista likes multiple units that are weak, and you can start pinging them. So it's gonna be interesting to see. He's still playing around Scorch. Great Akimara there. Because he could have eaten something bigger and just been vulnerable to that. But he knows, again, JJ, what he's playing.
Yeah, absolutely. So he could have eaten something bigger to save it from the Ragnarok. But yeah, he knows JJ. He knows JJ's playing Scorch. He also does, if he wants to, opens up the option for Shani on Dorigaray this round for double the carryover. But yeah, that's a really nice play around. And I would expect to potentially see it drag down into the Ragnarok, because he may want to clear out that carryover.
We must stick
and
together.
there it goes. So, yeah, this is an interesting round now, because you've got triple sixes, so that's going to be fairly luck-based. That's a 1 in 3 chance for each one of those to get hit by Ragnarok. And if he is aiming to eliminate that carryover, he's going to actually have to devote pretty serious resources to doing it, right? Like,
yes.
If you look at the remaining cards in JJ's hand, they're all really important. So
they're all crucial, but as of right now, they're not really that powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the options that Metranos has is he can actually just play decent. It's always said as playing bad cards, right? You play your bad cards to keep your good cards.
Yes.
So Metranos has bad cards, then obviously not bad, but bad cards in his hand to put down on the board. JJ kind of doesn't at this point. You can Ard for points. Ard is like a 15-point swing. That's pretty cool, but you don't want to Drought because it's just going to hit armor.
Oh, this pass is great for JJ. This pass is
nice for
insane for JJ. It's very interesting, because the passing game in these kind of matchups is very difficult to predict, because these kind of decks thrive on long rounds. These decks are not designed to win in a very short round. They're not rain farting into Joaquim Nazica,
Yeah, absolutely.
They don't have those kind of plays, so they require for rounds to have at the very least round 3 with 5 or 6 cards, so they can start building up their crewmen, and they can potentially line up a Scorch or get a key Shani. But the longer the round, the better. But both decks thrive in that environment, so it's going to be interesting to see exactly when they want to pass, because that pass was very interesting by Metranos.
Yeah, and I find this very interesting indeed. JJ immediately dropping the Drought in round 2, JJ kind of signaling, I'm going to bleed you this round. And
he won at an even card state, so realistically, he can't open pass because of the carryover play by Metranos, and really, he can push as much as he wants. I think what JJ's going to try to do is, because he couldn't open pass on him, he's either going to try to push for the 2-0, or he's going to try to put him in a position in which he has to play an extra card and go into a relatively short round 3 with 1 card over his opponent, which, considering the matchup, would pretty much win him the match.
Honestly, though, he's got enough movement that, I like it anyway, but I kind of like going for the 2-0 because he's got the operator for the Dwarven Agitator. We're actually going to see that do real value this time because
you can't mulligan it in this round. Yeah, that's a good argument for going for the 2-0. Like operating to Dwarven Agitator because you can't mulligan it away. He's stuck with that card, and that's a lot of value. Like you have a two strength dead card. While you have another copy of like a very strong bronze.
Yeah, it's extremely good. You get 7 points on the board, so actually giving them the 2 is only like you get 5 points.
Yeah.
And then from that extra Dwarven Agitator, you get so much value. You can't even say how much value it is because you may be moving something into weather or disrupting crewmen, or there's all sorts of fantastic things that you can do with that Dwarven Agitator in this round. That I think that JJ is actually here we go. It's going to be straight on the Agitator. There we go. Very strong play and actually sets JJ up for an excellent position to push this round in.
Potentially the coolest voice line in the game, in my opinion, the operator.
Oh, well, the operator.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he sort of flip-flops between being really nice and being really greedy. Like, you turn up once and he's really nice to you, and then he calls you a blind, greedy fool. And it's like, oh, okay, never mind. Yeah.
Feels bad, man.
He's a changeable character, but yeah, it is a fantastic card, and this is like one of its strongest uses, right? Like Dwarven Agitator is such a great target for it. And
Operator in the past, in like previous, in certain patches and metagames, he's been at the very high end of usage. Like he's been super prevalent. Now I think because of the rise in power level of bronze cards in general, 7 strength on a silver body, you need a very good combo to justify that.
You are absolutely right. It is to do with like rising power levels and the card just getting left behind in terms of tempo. But the great thing about Operator is I actually really like Operator as a card. I don't run it very often, but when I do, it just has some really fun uses.
It's just very fun in general.
Yeah, absolutely. And while I don't run it particularly often, I just love seeing the creativity it opens up in deck building because you've just got this crazy card where you can like just do awesome plays like this. You can use it with Queen's Guard and stuff. Like there's so many cool uses for Operator. Really interesting card. But we do actually immediately see there's now a double crewman pocket on there. You've got the Sergeant, you've got the Siege Support, but there's only 1 unit on the board for JJ. And actually JJ has the advantage of until he gets those mercenaries out, there's not going to be fantastic targets for ballistas because there's going to be fairly few units.
It's going to be difficult for JJ to put Metranos in a position in which he's forced to play an extra card because he's already been able to generate quite a lot of strength. And now is when, even after this play, like his hand is looking so threatening. He has 3 potential targets for Hensoldt that will be massive because every single one of those cards right there, unless my memory is bad, has not been played. I think.
None of those have been played.
So that means that there's 2 copies of each one of those bronze cards in his deck, which means that his Hensoldt will be ridiculously powerful.
Yes, absolutely. It's a really, really scary position for him to be in. And Scorch does have a lot of similar strength units. You got 7 on the mercenaries, 8 on the brigade.
But he's going to go on the siege support, which I like.
Siege support. I actually like this. I really like this because that's it makes the agitator better, but it's also just like
salutations.
Agitator's 5 strength now.
Yeah,
not bad.
It's a 5 strength card with no effect. Meta probably, but it's like it's a really interesting play, and it's just overwhelming JJ with points, right? So JJ now has to recognize either I'm going to commit and I'm going to Ard, I'm going to Zoltan, I'm going to spam it out, but that ballista will do a lot of damage because there's now going to be 8s. When those agitators are played, there's going to be 7s. So it will hit for probably from like its second shot, it'll be hitting 5 targets. So it's going to do work. But this is really nice. That drought doing damage.
No more mechanisms to move things around, even though he can try to find some value, extra value at least, with the Gwentslam Siege Master, because a lot of people forget that the Gwentslam Siege Master heals the machine that it's targeting. So if it takes any sort of damage prior, it's difficult to do so because both the siege supports right now that are taking damage are below the strength, the base strength line of the 2 machines that he has. It's going to be interesting to see which machine he goes for here. He does, as you said, have very valuable targets with the ballista. Like ballista is very solid here. It deals, 2 and then 5, 8 damage, which is great. Like, especially with like the triple buff from the G support. Like all these plays now from Metranos are insanely powerful. And it's gonna be very interesting to see like if JJ is willing to continue pushing. Even like at this point, you have to realize that I am not winning this round. Like he's not winning this round.
Yeah, and I mean, with a Scorch sitting on a measly 9 points, I mean, we're talking about, Hensoldt's resiliency against Scorch. Resiliency, probably a dangerous word to use when talking about Gwen. Hensoldt being good against Scorch because there's never really a too big target. Like, the 9 is like basically all JJ's going to get, really, because even that the Agitator will line up with the 7s. There's nothing too big going to be coming down from Metranos, so we may see JJ just be like, okay, I'll just Scorch and get some points from it, but
yeah, no, he
could
do that.
Drain the targets out from Metranos, right?
He's trying to differentiate like his approach. Like he's trying to like take all the synergy out of him and leave him in a very awkward round 3, in which he has like a battering ram and like a random card here, and there's just no strength behind all that because this is the strongest point of this deck when you have triple siege supports. That's when every single one of your plays becomes so strong. As he drops down Mertebrecht. I like him. Like the thing is, I'm not sure why. I think Metranos can definitely afford to drop the Agitator. I think he's not in that big of a risk, but maybe he just wants to make sure that he's not forced down, and he can always mulligan it away, right? But look at his hand. Like he's in a very strong position this round, but he's really going to be vulnerable in the next round. And because he's going to play first, what could happen is JJ could actually keep Scorch, have him play a card, and just Scorch it away.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I was going to say. You can actually value fight Hensoldt. So when you get him down to a few cards, the cards individually just don't do much. Like Hensoldt works well together. He works well on big board states where you have those supports, you have the masters, you've got the crewmen. But when it goes to like 2 or 3 cards round 3, you can just value fight him. And by that I mean you can play Ard and just get points from it because it's a good point-based card. Agitator, great point-based card, 12 points, dropping that mercenary and buffing. And then, he has to play first. You just Scorch his first unit. Honestly, JJ right now, he could just do that. He could just play, never mind synergy, strategy's overrated, drop his cards and take it. Like,
but he's pushing harder. He really wants to put him in a bat. But the thing is, if you're JJ, you know that he still has that Dwarven Agitator, so you can make an argument for passing to make it so that whatever he draws, he will keep. Like, you're kind of like forcing him to have that awkward mulligan phase because he obviously has to get rid of the Dwarven Agitator. But it's also smart to push harder because if right now, if he were to pass like next turn, we would be looking at a round 3 with 3 cards. And I think that's enough to actually, as you said, value fight him efficiently.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that Agitator, you make a very good point. It's almost like the Guardian or something. It's like, okay, you could mulligan this, whatever, but it means that you're keeping whatever you draw, so good luck. But in this instance, we're actually going to see the Master come down and reload that Ballista. Absolutely love Ballista. What a satisfying card.
Yeah,
but
it's just so fun to play.
Like
especially against Dagon. Especially if you're a Dagon hater like me.
Yeah,
it's the greatest thing ever.
Well, it's just awesome. I was watching the final game yesterday with Lifecoach. He was sitting next to me. And it's great. I was looking one direction, I had the TV, and in my ears behind me, I just had Lifecoach doing all the sound effects. It was awesome. It's just whale harpooner. He's like, oh yeah, but I just love it when it fires the big harpoon. It's like it kills the whale. It was awesome. The sound effects, they add a lot. But like this is the point where JJ, it's value fighting. You Scorch their first card. You know that you're probably going to get like 9 or 12, probably 12 points from Ard, and then you just hope that you get a high value card. But he's going to push it even further. Take him to a singular card. JJ very confident in his remaining draws.
I'm really intrigued about this play. I guess he really wants a short round, but it's very hard for him. Well, he does know. He has a dead Dwarven Agitator, so maybe...
Yeah, he knows that he's got one more card, essentially, and he's got a 10-point Scorch, so it's not enough, but it is pretty... Well, actually, we go to 32, we go to 22, 24...
This battering ram is very strong.
The battering ram is very strong because it has double targets, so the battering ram can do 4 points of damage because it doesn't have a 3-strength target to hit, so the battering ram represents 11 points, so he's got 13 points in hand, but he's going to take 8 points of damage from the drought.
Oh no, but battering ram is actually 1 point higher, I think.
No, it doesn't matter because battering ram's damage is boosted by the initial damage is boosted.
Yeah.
But the only thing it could kill to hit twice.
No, but I'm talking about the second hit is 3 strength.
Yeah, but there's only 2 strength targets. Oh yeah, sorry, he could hit a higher strength one. Yeah, of course, what am I talking about? But yeah, so okay, battering ram's 1 more points. That's 12. So
but it's still very tight. Like
it's very tight.
It's like it takes so it takes ones. Oh, and he's gonna play that now. Then he's playing Scorch 100%.
Yeah.
Oh wow, JJ just going all in.
This is absolute top deck mode. Let's go.
But I'm pretty sure this battering ram, will it be enough?
Yeah, it will be.
I think. Yeah, but after like the drought hits, it will.
Yeah.
But barely being able to. Metranos by 3 points able to stay in, and we're gonna see round 3, top deck mode. Here we go. I honestly don't know like who has the upper hand at this point because
that's pretty good. That's 9 points.
Yeah.
Well, actually, JJ has the upper hand because Metranos has to go first.
And that's all she wrote. The White Frost right there. Oh man, one of the worst, if not the worst, and a little bit of BN right there, putting it in the frost and then rescuing it with the mercenary. JG bringing it up 1-1. as both players have gotten the victory with their Squirtle decks, and
Absolutely.
we'll see what he brings now. What do you think he would bring?
I think I want to see the crack in the brand.
Yeah.
I want to see the
I want
Cracksman.
to see. It's a mirror I'm actually really excited for.
Yeah, it's really
so
cool. Honestly,
different.
Metranos' crack deck is really cool. Like, it's
Yeah,
Cracksman.
it's very nice.
Axeman is a fun card. Like, I feel like Axeman's one of those cards with, like, a very troubled history. Because, it was always going between sort of being unplayable and then being, like, very, very powerful.
Yeah.
So we had, like, a horrible era of Axeman just dominating. But I feel like Axeman's actually found a really good position now.
Yeah, it's
really
balanced.
Cool
It can be very strong if went on insert, and it's actually pretty resilient with the armor.
Yeah.
It's kind of beefy originally because we've seen Axeman suffer all sorts of transformation. It used to be like, just 2 strength. Like super weak, but it's gone from that. It's gone from, as you said, extremely powerful because of the way old Biting Frost worked.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, but I'm excited to see it. It was one of those cards that when you see it a lot, you get really tired of it. But when it falls out of place, you kind of miss him. You kind of mix that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that
guy.
Axeman's in a great spot right now. So I'm very much so looking forward to seeing the Cracksman. We could potentially see Crack versus Hensoldt. That's actually
one piece.
kind of
Fight for
interesting.
it.
That's gonna be Hensoldt.
Men of
Okay,
Oh.
we got a mirror again.
The Hensoldt mirror. Now let me just.
This one's gonna be clunky. It's gonna be cool.
Yep, there's gonna be some coin flipping going on. Let's have a look at the deck lists. I think that we're seeing
They're pretty much the same, aren't
pretty
they?
similar decks. Yeah, we're actually seeing
They are literally the same decks.
they are the exact same decks.
Exact same.
Okay, so we're seeing a literal mirror matchup between 2 players playing precisely the same Northern Realms deck. So this one's going to come down to sequencing.
Yeah,
and
in this particular,
drawing.
the coin, like I know the coin flip meme gets mentioned a lot, but in this particular type of matchup, it's where it really
it's like game defining. Yeah.
It's really important because both players are playing the same deck, and having the ability to win out a round on even cards if you get your sequencing right is very advantageous, obviously, as the coin flip goes in favor of Superjj, which, he has lost the prior too, so I think
That's only fair, right?
yeah,
I think.
fair.
Yeah, I mean, we see both players keeping those sergeants on the mulligan to deal with the weather because they know that they're both playing. Drought will be appearing, but only JJ actually draws out his drought, so
Yes.
kind of nice for him. But those sergeants do remain there.
Oh, the problem for JJ he has no kid when he sees support in his opening hand.
Yeah.
And in a long, dragged-out round, that's an issue. That's a big issue.
Metranos also has the spy, so he can coin flip. Like, he can reverse it with the spy.
Yeah,
so
he could.
He can do that, and he does have Scorch in hand, and he knows JJ's running Scorch, and it'll block it as well. So
And
that's what we see he's going to do.
Leading off with Tyler is actually very, very solid because you're also blocking Scorch by doing that. Your opponent is playing Scorch, and you know that you can focus on playing multiple units that are like 7 or 6 strength, and you don't have to worry about an early Scorch like really taking you down.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think sort of one card in Scorch has been the hallmark of this series so far, both games beginning with it. So we may actually get to see a late game Scorch at this point, because while Hensoldt is good against Scorch, because you don't have those big strength units, when both people are playing Hensoldt, you can get some pretty sweet lineups. If your opponent drops like a couple of sergeants, you can Scorch them away. It removes 14 points and 2 crewmen.
It's funny because in a way, like the siege support could work against them by making his units a little bit stronger than JJ's.
Yes.
And then they become vulnerable to Scorch because of that.
That's so accurate. Yeah, that's actually a real thing.
Yeah, we see the pass. He does have one card in his hand that can do this, which is why he went for Thaler, and that is Merc the Brack. By 1 point, he will be able to get ahead, and Metranos is able to win round 1, going that 1 card. And I would not be surprised if I saw an open pass here by Metranos in a very long round 3.
Yeah,
we just see machines firing away.
Yeah,
and I'm excited for that.
Oh, yeah, that would be awesome. I just love to see the ballistas come out.
Yeah.
That's my card. We see Drought from both players. Oh, my goodness. It's going to be one of those games. It is going to be a fist fight. But it's a really, really...
Weather Wars, man.
It's a great opener for Metranos. Like, when you lose the coin flip, it couldn't have gone much better than that. Like, Mirta Brack fulfills that super niche function of, like, Thaler, thankfully, is only 11 points. So Mirta Brack does take it. Like, a lot of spies at 12 wouldn't work in other factions. But in Northern Realms, that's like a really cool little opener that you can do. But
Superjj is still not drawing the kid when he sees support. Definitely looking for it, but not able to pick it up. He has one last chance, as we do see the open pass from Metranos. And I think Dorgaray is the best play to go for here into Ekimara. But it's not really that. It's not really that good, actually. I mean, it's not a bad play, But it's very likely that Ikimara is going to go down in the entire round 3, with ballistas.
Absolutely. Well, it's just another 6-strength unit that gets hit by ballistas.
Exactly.
JJ's hands not fantastic for him. We do see triple Siege Masters, something that typically you might want to prefer to get out of Hensoldt, but they're great if you have the cards to use them with. But with no siege supports on board,
you need machines.
Supports and 2 machines. It's a little bit rough.
He needs to really search for that siege support, and I think the key point is the player who's able to, get that triple Kidwini siege support lineup is going to have a tremendous advantage. But going back to what I said, gotta be careful with Scorch.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think we're actually going to see JJ potentially keeping Dorigaray for a Drowner to play into his weather, because he knows that there's sergeants in Metranos' deck. He knows that the weather's going to get cleared, but there's going to be one row without it unless he's got triple sergeant, which would be a pretty crazy hand to keep.
Yep.
So
great draw, but he still no siege support. He has to search for it. He just can't draw it. He's actually keeping his entire hand. You would think that he would replace Taller for a second, but it actually makes a lot of sense. With Taller, he can block Scorch. It also gives him a chance to draw into the siege support, and because of weather, it's just going to be going down anyway. So. Right off the bat, JJ with also not risking, mulliganing into Roach, because again, we all know how much Roach loves JJ. So she will always appear.
Yeah, Roach has the hidden effect of you always draw it when in your deck. But maybe that's just me. But yeah, we see double drought, Roach having no idea what she's doing, sitting in the desert. But we see an immediate weather clear, setting up a little crewman as well. Now, we see some differences in machines, we have more in the hand of Metranos. You got that double battering ram. That is pretty high point value, but the one card that I think could really make a difference this round is the White Frost sitting there, because once those sergeants are spent, JJ's White Frost can be put to huge effect.
I know why they're not saving Roach. I know why they're putting that in the siege row. It didn't come to me before. They're playing around Geralt Dard. They don't want Geralt Dard to move things, push them back. You know what I mean? They're setting it up, and they want to avoid the melee row, and they want to put everything in the back, and that's honestly that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean it denies the weather value. I mean, Geralt Dard thankfully got changed so you can damage things in the siege row, but yeah, you're absolutely right. They're denying the ability to throw the back into the weather. But Thaler's going to go and sit in the drought as well. He's probably going to take an additional sergeant here. Yeah, so the sergeant to counter the weather. Nice move, to be honest, because
still no siege support though.
Yeah, no siege support's coming out.
The fact that so the thing is, if Metranos plays siege support, JJ actually has the answer for it. He has the Dorigaray into Drowner, pushing it into the drought, taking 4 damage from it, and then the drought will immediately pick it off. So because he's not running Shani, he doesn't have Shani in his hand basically. If that siege support could get answered like that and knocked out immediately, that will change things a lot.
Yeah, that would be a huge, huge blow to Metranos. I mean, one of the things that is kind of nice for him is he does have the singular ballista, so he does have a backup Hensoldt target, because it would have been a disaster if he'd had
if
2
banked
ballistas
on that,
or something and just lost so much value out of that Hensoldt, because Hensoldt's just an unbelievable power play. But yeah, I do expect to see that siege support get answered with a Drowner when it comes out.
Hensoldt is mathematically the strongest leader in the game.
Is he stronger than Morvran Voorhees revealing?
Morvran Voorhees reveal can be a total of 20 points. Yeah. Hensoldt can get insane. Hensoldt is ridiculous. Hensoldt pulling 2 bronze cards because of the rise of the power level of bronze cards. Hensoldt is just so.
Well, I think just because.
But I love it because it's not. It requires you to have that bronze card. You have to mulligan properly. You have to make sure that it's not vulnerable to removal. It can be disrupted. It's one of my favorite leaders because of that. I think it's well designed.
Yeah, I really do love Hensoldt. I mean, even disregard new units, just with Reaver Hunters, he's crazy. But yeah, I do love the conditional nature, and Hensoldt really rewards high-level play, because if you get answered, your Hensoldt is just sad. He's like Hensoldt no mates. He just goes and sits on the board and has a horrible time.
I take my 3 strength.
Yeah.
Trouble approaches.
Cared when he looks behind him, there's just no one there. He's just been yelling to no one.
Oh.
They're like, Hensoldt, the battle was 2 days ago, mate. What are you doing? He always does this. But yeah, it's
I think we're going to see Dorigaray here 100%.
Yeah, I think the Dorigaray has to answer the siege support, because there's triple siege support on the board. That is just going to be uncounterable for JJ.
A plague. I love that line.
Yeah, I love that line. Mankind is a virus. Alright, so that siege support dies, denying the target. There's no Shani in Metranos' hand. He cannot get that siege support back. So that's honestly a pretty great play by JJ here.
That's massive. That if Metranos would have been able to get that Hensoldt onto the siege support going on, it would have been his game.
Yeah, there's actually some really nice sort of like draw matchups here. So we see Kira for Metranos, actually bad to have because of Scorch. So it's going to set units up to be able to be Scorch. Whereas we see Shani for JJ, fantastic to have, because if he weathers again and kills this Doric Array, it gives you another Drowner.
He could Aeromancy with Kira though. We may see that.
Yeah, he'll
because of what
probably
you said. We may see that just because he doesn't want to go overboard with buffing, but also buffing and with armor. That's kind of like extra value that you're gaining because of the damage you're taking. So it's hard to say how he will use Kira this game.
Absolutely, but I think the Shani for the Doric Array, it could be fantastic.
Yeah.
Like, if we saw White Frost apply the Frost to the Siege Row again, it does open that up as a move. But now, weather damage is just ticking in everywhere. But we do, for JJ, have that Thaler sitting there on 9 strength, sort of guarding the Scorch. Like, he does have an option.
And it's also important to know that Superjj has the last say in this game. And when you're packing Scorch in your hand and you have set up cards like Ballista, that is super important.
Yes, absolutely. It's just key, isn't it? Like, last action of the game allows you to dictate the final board state. That's huge. It's just an unspeakable advantage. But hand-wise, I do like Metranos' hand, but that siege support loss was just such a huge blow for him. I'm wondering how he recovers from that. He needs to get ballista targets on the board, but JJ is denying ballista targets right now because Drought will actually unstagger ballista targets. You got to be very it's more like a timing thing, right?
Yes.
Because like if that Drought had ticked, you would have had a couple of 3s and a 2. You could have pinged the ballista off them. But now it's cleared. You got a 7 with armor, a 5, a 3, and a 2. So you're looking at like maximum 2 targets really for the secondary shots. So ballista is actually a really tough card to hit in this board state. It's
also one of the reasons why I think the machine archetype in general is very difficult to pilot. It's because of exactly that, the timing of the machine plays and setting up the Scorches. Not only that, like I personally run like cards like Vernon Roach because I like him with the siege support and stuff. And like setting up all those kind of things, it's really, you have to think a lot. Like it's very hard. Like you have to be very concentrated because you have to think ahead a few turns and see how the strengths are going to line up, and it's difficult to mess up.
I think you're 100% right. Yeah, absolutely. It's like I think Hensoldt is a fantastic showcase of like some of the 400 IQ maths level of play. Right? Like there's some pretty crazy forward thinking involved. I mean, I'm just sitting there playing Bloody Baron slamming removal cards, I don't think. But yeah, Hensoldt, however, is really, really meticulous to play. And that is something that definitely fits JJ as a player. We always see him come out with really awesome, meticulously crafted decks. Yeah.
And it's important to know that battering ram dropped by Metranos did not hit the Doric Array. He's aware his opponent is, obviously they have the same deck list, so he's aware that he's running Shani, and he does not want to give him that Shani. And that's very solid foresight by Metranos there.
Absolutely. It's just saying I know exactly what's going to happen if I kill that, and so I'm going to avoid it. Really, really smart play here. But I mean, the nice thing for JJ is even if this Sergeant dies, he can even Shani that for a full board weather clear. Yeah, okay, you'll probably get White Frost coming out of Kira, but it's pretty good. Like, you'd rather be sitting with higher health units, and it's a full heal as well. So the problem that Metranos is facing right now is this weather is just eating him alive. Like, there's nothing to answer this weather, whereas JJ still does have a couple of options.
And he still has Geralt Dart as well. That Geralt Dart is going to hit hard.
Yes.
And the Scorch, if he's able to line up the Scorch properly as well, which I think, like, right now he has a secured Scorch because that Frost is taking on the weakest units, and that Thaler is going to stay at 9 strength unless, it's hit by something, which means that he doesn't have to worry about, getting an awkward Scorch later down the line if he preserves it a lot. And that's that must feel very comforting for Superjj.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we see a little bit of a diminished value Geralt Ard there because, of course, it lost a couple of points on the Sergeant, lost 1 point on the Drowner. So not a maximum efficiency Geralt Ard, but it does guarantee that there will continue to be targets in that Drought.
Yes.
But we do have the Weather Clear Res available, but I expect that JJ will just wait out and see if he does kill that Doric Array, because the Drowner here is just really high value, especially when it forces him to play on all 3 rows. But yeah, I mean, JJ needs to sort of start chipping away these targets, right? Like, he's going to start playing.
He's going to go. He's going to go with it.
He's going to go with the Sergeant. Here we go. Here's the Weather Clear.
Be glad to.
Going to play Shani on the Range Rogue and resurrect the Kidwini Sergeant, which is a crewman. Going to place it right next to the other Sergeant so that he has a socket there to put Is that a word?
A socket. Yeah. What are you putting in the socket?
I thought that was an English word.
It is an English. It's an English word.
Oh,
but it's like you like plug things into a socket.
Oh, a machine socket.
A machine socket.
Machine
he can
socket.
Plug his battering ram in.
That was totally on purpose. Yes.
He could charge his battering ram. But yeah, it's.
Help me.
But yeah, the double crewman is indeed very, very good. And this is what I'm saying about mid-range value units. We're seeing a lot of similar units. That cloak is going crazy on the premium. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So we have the ballista here, and we immediately have like triple targets. We've got 7s and 6s. So that double crewman pocket with those ballistas is looking very, very tasty for JJ indeed. Especially as he's row stacked, meaning that he's going to take negligible damage from this frost. Or he could also drop a siege master right now, heal up that battering ram, and save it.
Yes, that would be a solid play. The problem is he doesn't have a good target, but this is the turn for him to do that. If he doesn't, he loses one of his 2 Hensoldt targets, and that's very dangerous.
Yeah, it is very dangerous indeed. I mean, I feel like he knows the units in the deck, so I think ballista is always going to be a higher value Hensoldt target because of the similar nature of the unit's strengths. But
he's gonna go for it.
He's gonna go for it, just because it's a high point. Like you mentioned earlier, it heals the unit. It's a decent little play. You get 5 off the heal.
And the gentleman, he's like, it's 10 strength alone because of the healing, and now the hit on top of that. So very solid. When he's siege master here, he just has to basically set up the next battering ram. Like right now, there's no value you can get from that. Yeah, it's difficult to do so though with the weather taking down as well, because with battering ram you need if you have double crewman, you're gonna hit for 4 damage the first time, and then if you knock that unit out, you can repeat the deploy effect and hit something for 3.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's the case as well if he's protecting his ballista targets with those double 6s, but actually there's honestly a pretty decent art opportunity here. You can move things up, get the weather damage ticking double. If your opponent's taking 4 weather damage a turn and you're only taking 2, that is really going to set the tempo in your favor. So yeah, another battering ram just comes out and just pings the siege master, denying the Hensoldt target. Also, he thinks there is actually another one in hand, and that is not the Hensoldt target, but decent play nonetheless.
Yeah. Now we're gonna see the ballista getting to work, and I think ballista is gonna be the Hensoldt target this game for.
Oh yeah, it
JJ.
will. It absolutely will. Look at this. It's like
it's just so satisfying.
Yeah, even next to a double crewman, every ballista you play from now on does like a lot of damage essentially. If you get those double crewman pockets set up, which is very easy to do with Hensoldt and another siege master, yeah, you're going to see some pretty crazy ballista gameplay.
We may see Hensoldt being played next turn by JJ, because the longer he waits, the more he's in danger of not being able to to have a target. Because ballista and battering ram, that's it. That's what he can target with this.
Yeah, the nice thing for JJ is as well, there's now multiple units to choose from for an odd target. So you can move all sorts of things up into that frost, but you need to protect your Scorch on that Thaler as well, because that Scorch, while not representing a lot of points, when the point margin is this close, it's actually pretty useful. So you need to make sure that you keep that Scorch open.
Oh, and that's what I'm talking about. He just denied the ballista, so now JJ is only capable of using Hensoldt on the battering ram. Very solid play by Metranos.
Yeah, very, very smart. Very smart.
He has to go for it now, yeah.
Yep.
Placing it right next to the crewman.
Fight for it. Yep, so that's a double crewman pocket, so they'll both be
this is still really strong.
Both be doing 4 initial damage. There are plenty of 4 straight targets on the board. So yeah, this is a really, really beautiful ballista. Not ballista, he wishes. Beautiful battering ram play by JJ here.
And he's going to deny the battering ram Hensoldt himself, but will he be able to deny the ballista into Hensoldt? I don't think he has any other way of...
No, because he can ard it, but it would only take 5 damage if it moves into frost. So no, he cannot deny the
JJ with a monstrous lead, but that's what happens when you play Hensoldt. It can throw you up, but the key thing is he denied the crewman. He wiped out the crewman, so now only Hensoldt provides crewman, which means that these machines have been significantly weakened, and JJ is scoring a 25 strength point lead with the likes of Geralt Dard and Siege Master in his hand still, and the Scorch, which will find the target in that tower. So this is looking extremely solid for JJ. I think it's very hard for him to lose at this point.
Yeah, I think there's still a lot of value. There's still a lot of 7 strength targets. Okay, 1 is armored, but we'll go down to 6. So you'll be dealing 3, then 4 damage. So the upcoming ballistas do have a great deal of points value. Like, they're really, really powerful. But, yeah, the thing that he's going to struggle with is going to be the crewman. Like you say, he wiped out the crewman. It just makes the machine so much less threatening. When you have that crewman proc, it is just absolutely superb. And, because it's not like a battering ram, right?
Yeah.
Like battering ram's like, okay, it makes it a little bit easier to kill the initial target, gives you 1 more damage. But on a ballista, it's like when it repeats the deploy effect, you can be looking at up to like 4 to 5 extra points for each crewman effect on it. So it's really, really cool and very, very well planned by JJ to kill out those crewmen.
Yeah, the execution here was pretty flawless by JJ. As he plays the Siege Master right there, going to knock out one of the 2 golds, and then I would assume he's going to hit the Battering Ram after that. Yep.
I mean, the art here is huge as well, right?
Yeah, the art is monstrous.
JJ has many, many kill cards in his hand. But, I mean, like, Hensoldt Ballista is powerful, but, yeah, I don't believe it's going to be powerful enough to topple this, and I think this game's going to be going to JJ so that he recovers from the disastrous first game to take a 2-1 lead.
Even though this Ballista is really nice, but
Ballista's great.
But it's like...
It's just not enough points.
Yeah. Great match by both players, and very solid performance by Superjj. Really knowing how to sequence and denying the Hensoldt. That's the thing. Hensoldt is incredibly strong, but very disruptible. And he knew when to target, he knew when to be aggressive, he knew when to go for his own leader ability, and just a very solid performance by JJ.
Absolutely. I mean, the Hensoldt Ballistas, there's so much thinking going on right now. Both players doing their maths, doing their homework, but Metranos with a wonderful thinking pose is wondering how much Ballista value he can get out here. But I mean, with the Ard and the Scorch is 9, the Ard is 15, so there's a real mountain to be climbed, and that's not even regarding frost damage.
Yep, this is pretty much a wrap. Scorch burning the Tala that was played at the very beginning of this round, and Men of Gedwin.
There's a lot of targets here.
There's a lot, but there's just not enough crewman slots, and this is where Geralt Dart finds home as well. Metranos with a powerful swing here. Being able to actually get ahead of his opponent, but this girl...
5 targets doing absolute work, but Ard is high value enough on his own that it is going to take it. Geralt coming in.
Good game.
Clutch Ard sign, knocking them up into the frost. Good game. It's going to go 2-1 to JJ, so it now means that JJ is playing for his spot in the finals.
Yep.
If he gets one more
win away
he's
from
in the
getting
finals.
there.
And Metranos trying to claw it back as well. But
he's gotten the victory with, he just has King Bran, which is one of the most powerful decks right now. He's preserved that for last. He got the win with Squirtle. He got the win with Northern Realms, which is the trickiest one right now.
Yeah.
And he's been sequencing really well, like what leaders to go with. And we're gonna see King Bran. Will we see Karak on Crave versus King Bran?
I want to see the Karak.
I think that's more likely, right?
Yeah, Metranos needs to.
Regardless, I think he kind of struggles with both of his decks against it, in a way. You know what I mean? Because Hensoldt Machines really struggles with Restore Skellige. And Kraken Crate, his deck is more geared to like a long round. So regardless, I want to see some Skellige on Skellige Crime. So
I think that I'd maybe lean towards the Crack here. Because if you do manage to get those weathers out, you do manage to get those... Well, like, Whale Harpoon is a great card. You can line up a lot of high-strength units and hit some really big lacerates, because I know that Metranos runs triple lacerate in his crack deck.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of AoE clearance. But like we mentioned at the beginning, these are like anti-monsters decks playing each other. So there is some weird gameplay going on, but it is really interesting to see. And that's the nature of a tournament. Like, it happened to JJ and Gwent Open, right? He's like, yeah, I'm going to target Mill, and then he got put in the bracket with no Mill players. So it does happen, but... It's going to be a result in some interesting gameplay. We see actually quite a nice gold lineup coming out for JJ. He's got his Lugos.
Metranos going with Hensoldt. Metranos opted goes with Hensoldt, and it's going to be interesting to see what approach he takes for this match, because I guess the question here is, how is he going to approach round 3? Like, how is he going to lead into that round? Does he want to have a very short round one? Because King Bran is not known for being the most pushy deck in the first round.
Yeah, it's not. Like,
his hand is pretty awful, I think.
His hand is terrible.
Well, I mean, the Armor Smith do a lot of work in this matchup.
Armor Smith's fantastic here.
But it's still kind of bad.
Armor Smith's fantastic here, but you've got to be careful with Yennefer as well, because with Yennefer, if you play the Kyrenex, you can very easily... enable the Shani into Dorgaray, so you got to be a little bit careful with that.
Good point.
But yeah, JJ's hand's pretty horrible. Like, double Raiders sitting there is not what you want to see at the beginning of the game, especially with a Warmonger sitting laughing in your hand. But it's awkward. I mean, the one thing in JJ's favor is he gets the coin flip, and with King Bran, coin flip is like super impactful.
Yeah. And he has, and another thing is he has Madman Lugos in his hand, so he's able to answer the key when he sees support, and he's able to deny that, and that means he can push him a little bit more this round. But in reality, like with this kind of deck, the reason why King Bran, for new players who may be watching, the reason why this kind of deck from King Bran does not really care about winning round 1 is because their strategy is to overwhelm you with their carryover strength, aka strength that will be present throughout the entire game. And they do that throughout the leader's ability, which enables him to discard cards to the graveyard. And you have the likes of Mark, who never dies, and Old Geared, who has no head but can walk, apparently.
Yeah, he's a chill dude. Yeah. That's fine. But, yeah, it's a really, really, like, frustrating matchup, I feel, for Metranos.
Yeah.
Like, having to play the Crack like this against a deck that is just, it doesn't care about Crack, right? Like, it's like, okay, play your weathers, whatever, I'll just have a high strength. Well, the benefit here is that actually Metranos has Drought. Drought is way better for him to have than Ragnarok.
Yes.
Because Ragnarok is always going to be hitting the highest strength unit.
Yes,
that's
such a good point.
It
Yes.
sets up the armor smiths to be enormous. However, Drought is going to be killing the low strength units and providing overall weak armor smiths. So it's like a weird distinction, but it's actually super, super important in this matchup. Drought is like 5 times better than Ragnarok here.
If you're JJ here, you definitely go deep this round. You don't want to have a long round against Northern Realms machines. You want to get those combos out of him. The thing about that play from Metranos, though, is JJ is not... He's playing Odoric, right? Or is he not? No, he's playing Roach instead. So he's not playing a Spy. So JJ has no way to get that card advantage back, barring just high-tempo plays. Getting, and I think he's going for that. But the thing is, if he wants to dig in, like, if he wants to drag him deep in this round and get, the synergies out of him, he is also going to potentially lose the ability to actually get that extra card out of him because we all know the snowballing potential of it.
Yeah, I mean, JJ's got a huge Yennefer right now. I think we're probably just going to see this come out. Like, Yennefer into Unicorn is pretty serious points at this.
Yeah, it is. He has a total of 5 more units than him. So
it's always what, like...
with Roach. No, with Roach is even more. Wow.
It's always what, like 9 plus...
This is super solid.
Yeah, that's a lot.
This is insane.
That's super good. JJ looks pretty pleased with himself with that Yennefer. Unicorn, unfortunately, has been consigned to the Drought, but he's done his job.
He has. So I'm really intrigued to see how JJ opts to approach this second round, like how far he's going to go. Because he's making a lot of very high-tempo plays in the initial portion of the match, which leads you to believe that he's going to, get out of it relatively soon. Even though we have seen JJ push completely in the past, but this time around he is 1 card down. And Gwent having 1 card less than your opponent is a massive deal.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, like, as you mentioned, you don't really want a long round against the machines. Hensoldt is...
He's lining up a Scorch here.
Yes, he is. Hensoldt is pretty good when he has all of those seed supports on the board. The more cards he plays, they just rack up value and value and value. So you don't really want a too long round. You want like the sort of Skellige sweet spot of like a few cards. But the problem is if you do give them that sweet spot, that's like, Hensoldt battering ram territory. Yeah. So he can get a lot of points on the board too.
It's interesting because he's lined up a Scorch for the 7s, but that also includes the Murkta bracket. So I think JJ's aware of this, and he's just going to completely deny that with an early Armor Smith, which is a good play in my opinion because he does have another one in his hand. And I want to go back to that point, like it's so important, the fact that Drought over Ragnarok here just makes a whole lot of a difference.
Yeah, it's really important. That's actually a question I get a lot, like why do you prefer Drought over Ragnarok? If I run a singular gold weather, I tend to run Drought. It's basically for that reason.
Yes.
It's like, it makes Armor Smiths way worse.
Against Dagon, you take away the eggs.
Exactly. It kills carryover, which tends to be lower strength units. If you're playing as Nilfgaard, because I run it in my reveal, if you're playing as Nilfgaard, it can give you some pretty cool targets for Vikavaros.
Yeah.
I really like Drought. Like, removing your opponent's cards, it removes, like, buff targets. It weakens their Yennefer. It weakens their Commander's Horn.
Yeah.
It's a really, really great card. I actually rate Drought quite significantly higher than Ragnarok. Ragnarok's a great card, but Drought just has more universal applications, I think.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Geralt Dard goes down from Metranos, getting some power plays in here because Metranos is not fully aware of just how far JJ is going to push this. So you have to kind of make some of these power plays because even though you can always preserve your strongest play for like when your opponent passes, you need to start generating a lot of strength yourself or at least taking it away from your opponent if you want to be able to catch up to him in 1 card.
Oh, yeah. If you play safe and you're 30 points down, you're going to get passed on and you're going to have to play like 3 cards.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be too fun.
Yeah, I mean, the caliber of these players, like, they know exactly, the dangers of that, and we see them avoiding. Like, these are the best players out there, right? Like,
absolutely. And it just highlights, like, passing is, like, passing is one of the greatest.
You can write a book on passing.
Oh, yeah, you really can. And I'm sure some people do on Reddit, but it's like, it's like, the passing game is so integral to being a pro player in Gwent. Like, if you want to, even if you're like brand new to the game, maybe you just started playing a couple of weeks ago, or maybe you're checking this out. Yeah. Really learning even like the basic fundamentals of when to pass will improve you as a player just immensely. It's so important to the game.
Will. It's interesting. Like, why did he target the? Oh,
He's
okay.
preventing drought
Yeah, he
damage.
prevented drought damage.
Yeah.
So he's ignoring. Yeah, he ignored Orgear because of that. Yeah, that makes sense. I like that. Smart play by JJ.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's there's still there is a 14-point Scorch on offer because of Metabrack would go down, but there's double Armorsmith Ceres that would get scorched. So there's a 14-point Scorch, but it's not really great. Yeah, honestly, Metranos needs to start committing tempo to this board, or else he's just going to get bullied in this round. He's going to drop serious cards.
I like how JJ is being very aggressive with the Armorsmiths, and instead of preserving them for the end of a round and trying to get that value, he's gonna get out of this round eventually. So he wants to get them in there, not only for the healing aspect of it, but for the armor. The armor will prevent the damage from drought, so they're pretty valuable and pretty solid tempo plays as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is one of the key things. If he does play the siege support, here we go. This is one of the
Madman
key things.
Lugos.
The Madman Lugos is such a savage in this matchup. He's going to come straight in.
What is it?
He's probably going to drop out maybe a Warmonger or a Harpooner.
I like
the
Warmonger.
Yeah. And it's going to take out that siege support, denying an enormous Hensoldt target. And once again, putting Metranos in the place where he really has to start committing serious tempo. Okay, so if you're Metranos right now, what do you do?
It's hard to say, but I think because you have no crewman played, so you have to. Obviously, you're going to use Dorgare with Drowner at some point. I think it's going to happen this matchup with the drought going on. I think you have to aim for maybe a battering ram here. Wouldn't be bad, especially because it can capitalize on the old geared. And it can take it down and then hit something else for 3, and then you have a potential Hensoldt target, and you also have a potential Siege Master target. Even though the same can be said for Ballista, but I like the battering ram play here. We may see that from him, but no, we're gonna see Ballista. If he plays Ballista though, he's basically saying I'm not playing Scorch.
Yeah, he is, but I think he's yeah, which is an interesting one actually, because he knows that there's Whale Harpooners in JJ's decks. He knows that they'll be coming down as 8s, so he's potentially denying himself, this to go later with the Scorch. Because, he could get, a 16-point Scorch on Whale Harpooners. So I feel like that's not enough, though, again. Because while there is a drought ticking, it's not doing as much as it could. There is armor on some cards. And drought is really great when the game is close. When you're catching up, it can be
the position
really
he's
great.
now, as of right now, Metranos, the danger of this is that there's going to be a point in which Metranos surpasses JJ, but at least right now Metranos is safe this turn because he is going to be able to catch up this time around. But it was getting tricky there for sure.
It's a really great pass from JJ.
Yeah,
excellent
pass.
This is such a core amount of points, right? Metranos needs 15 points. Okay, the drought won't hit Roach, so the drought will be doing 4 damage. So he needs a decent amount of points. 11 is going to be the sweet spot, right? So you need to actually commit some pretty serious stuff to do that. I mean, battering ram, but that actually kills a unit that's just going to die to the drought anyway. So it's kind of fake value.
And also, the thing about going for battering ram now is that you pretty much lose your Hensoldt target. Even though I'm pretty sure Metranos' approach will be to use Shani into good Unis support and Hensoldt. Metranos has a very solid looking round 3 here. It's very strong. He has Weather, he has Scorch, he has that Shani into Hensoldt. If it goes unanswered, that's very important. That may dictate the outcome of this game.
So we see the Dorgare going into the Drowner. Drowner really being a key card here for Metranos. Very, very high value card, of course, giving him the round. But yeah, you're right. This is a very, very scary round 3. Hensoldt's got some great utilities. He's got his Siege Master. He's got his Battering Ram. He's got White Frost, which is going to take for a fair bit of value.
Oh, but he's got the Coral.
Such a key mulligan here.
Yep.
Oh my goodness.
That's the one thing. That is the one thing JJ could pick up to counter that play, and I am definitely expecting that.
Yeah, I think everybody
Coral
here just had exactly the same reaction. Look at the production guys; they're just leaning back laughing. But, the Coral is such an amazingly cool draw here.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And if you want to take this line of play, if you're Metranos, you have to go for Shining now, or otherwise play Taller, I guess. But one of the two, you have to play that as early as you can because you're doing that because of the value that it represents. But I mean, it's at the same time. Oh, he goes Taller first. All right, this is very key because these are the 2 potential Hensoldt targets. Whatever he selects here, he's basically saying, I'm not choosing the other thing.
Yeah, and if it's the siege support, that siege support that goes on the board is going to get coralled.
I think it would be good for Metranos to pick up the siege support, actually.
Yeah, he wants the siege support. You want double siege support down, and then you can get battering rams out later.
Yeah. Because now Coral is not as devastating.
It's still pretty scary because when that battering ram is turned, it denies the Siege Master value and it stops machines coming out. So there's no crewman uses or like the thing is it's like so many of Metranos' cards right now revolve around having something to do with, right? Like Siege Master's a crewman, they're going to refresh abilities. That battering ram goes down, all of a sudden that's a dead card. You need Shani to actually like res a machine to do with, which obviously you want to use Shani on much higher impact cards.
Of course, we see the Warmonger go down as he just targets the Clan Enclave Raider. And the restore target, what will it be?
Well, it's kind of questionable.
Dorgaray.
It'll be Dorgaray, but it's kind of questionable because he could do things like res something out with Sigdrifa and then let Sigdrifa die to like White Frost, and then actually White Frost doesn't go on Siege Ray, but he could try to get Sigdrifa killed and restore it, but it is more likely to be Dorgaray.
Well, because of a change to Sigdrifa, that wouldn't happen. I think.
Doom. Yeah. Rip.
No, but it's very easy to forget about Doom. Like I forget about all the time with Kahir.
It's because I always discard it if I'm going to restore it.
Yeah.
And then of course discard doesn't trigger Doom, but it does trigger off the board. Yeah. Doomed, confusing. But yeah, so
before modern
we can see the reses come out. Still just like sort of getting some value out. Those Warmongers have actually lasted nicely until round 3, so you can play them out with the Raiders. There's another Raiders to get out.
Okay, mistake. He hasn't played. No, Metranos played Dorgaray, so he just sent his target for restore to the graveyard with that Warmonger. I apologize for that. I was thinking Dorgaray, but it was Metranos who played it. He hasn't drawn Dorgaray.
Yeah,
it's actually
it's going to be the Priestess. Yeah. Okay, so he's going to restore the Priestess that he just discarded with the Warmonger, which is a really nice move. 10 strength Priestess of Freya is always a funny thing to see.
Yeah.
But I'm still wondering with Metranos, like, Metranos needs to start establishing his position in this round. But that Coral is just really scary. I mean, the thing that I think could happen is this comes down and it's just going to get Coraled.
Yeah, okay, you have to call acknowledging the matchup, especially like JJ knows this deck very well because it's exactly the same as his own Hensoldt. So, this is the target for Coral.
I mean, unless you're like really fearing the ballistas or really fearing the battering rams, it would seem to make sense. If this does get Coraled, it is a significant drop in value.
Then again, this is not going to be the Hensoldt target anymore because he's played it from his hand. He hasn't played Shani.
It's not,
So maybe Superjj is not as concerned with it, knowing that he's not going to Hensoldt that C support.
But I mean, it does do a lot of value. Like it stops the buffs, it stops the crewman.
Yeah.
It really limits you to having to play a machine, then Siege Master, then Hensoldt to get a double crewman up. So this is a great Armorsmith, showing the power of this card. Absolutely
Slapping.
Such a powerful card, that Armorsmith.
Yeah, Armorsmith. I really like seeing Armorsmith being played a lot because it's the card that can be insanely powerful, but at the same time, it depends on what your opponent is doing. The power that it can generate, and it's a really coolly designed card. I really like it. I've had a lot of games in which I've had like the Armorsmith at the very end, and it provided me like 20-something value.
Yeah, Armorsmith can be a crazy big drop. He's really awesome. But like looking at the board state here, it's almost like Metranos has just not played any cards.
Yeah, exactly.
He's 45 points behind somehow,
Yep.
and has 1 unit to JJ's 8 on the field, which is, when you really wish that you still had a Yennefer. But this is like a really scary position for him to be in. He's got to start establishing his presence in this round.
Gonna go with a battering ram, hit the Sigdrifa, knock it out, and we'll see what he targets now. The key for Metranos to win this game is he needs to...
Immediately removing the machine target. Siege Master is now dead.
Ooh, that Coral, though. Not bad. JJ saw right through his strategy.
We're going to have to see a Shani answer here to provide some sort of machine value for Metranos.
How many Siege Masters has Metranos played?
I want to say none.
After I said like the whole Dorgaray thing, I'm scared.
I think he played 1.
Yeah, he probably played 1. The thing here is Metranos' win condition is Scorch. He needs to find a way to get a ridiculous Scorch. He needs to line up the units, and it's easier said than done, especially with weather taking. But I think that's his best chance.
Yeah, when you have high-strength units getting hit by Frost, it makes it much, much more difficult to line up.
And he is going to go with that. Got to go with the Ballista. He's played one Ballista then, right? So that's going to be his Hensoldt target. And Superjj has no answer for this. Ballista is also super key in lining up said Scorch. He has
Lined
to.
up a really nice Scorch. He's got 18 points available on the Scorch right now. So that's pretty significant, actually.
That's good enough, really, as a Scorch.
Well, yeah, it's almost enough to close the margin. So it's actually, 18 points is great from a Scorch. I think in this matchup, right now, if I was Metranos, I'd take the 18 points and run. If you're going to try to do anything else, like, there's armor smiths about, there's like all sorts of things that can disrupt you.
Yep.
So yeah, like I think the
it's almost 20 points. It's valuable. The thing is, obviously, he's far behind, but the weather is ticking and it's running through the armor as well. And he still hasn't played Hensoldt, which is his biggest play. Like Hensoldt will be so strong if he can get the proper value going, especially considering that he has a siege support and like multiple crewmen with the siege master.
One of the secret killers here though is he's gonna drop the siege master probably on the other side of this ballista to the right to activate double crewman, which means he's then gonna Hensoldt on the same row so he can keep double crewman up, and then
Lacerate's gonna hurt.
Lacerate is gonna sting.
Lacerate's gonna really hurt.
It's gonna be really savage.
This is a very interesting point of the match. Like Metranos is yet to reveal the true power here of his deck. Like he's preserving his most strong plays for the very end, and they're very much stronger than what he's doing normally here. But the thing is, Superjj has a massive lead already. We're talking about 34 strength points ahead. Like that's a lot of points.
Yeah, it's a significant lead. There are several like key stages though. So with JJ, it's like he's playing like constant value. But with Metranos, it's more like spiking value, right? Like JJ's value ramps up as he plays cards.
Yeah.
Metranos's goes like up and down, up and down, up and down. So Hensoldt is obviously like a huge power spike, and it makes like it can make the point values like a little bit irrelevant until you get to like the final couple of cards.
Armor Smith, we're gonna see here.
This is a fantastic.
That beefy Freya. That's a
oh,
thick Freya.
My goodness. The thickness of Freya. Yeah. But it's like that is a fantastic res on this Armor Smith.
Yeah.
Really, you're talking about the round 3 Armor Smith value you see sometimes. This is a great example.
This is awesome. This is so good. I would definitely he's thinking about like what gives him more points. I think buffing you definitely go for the Raider because you want to get the value from the armor itself as well.
Yeah.
Because you're going to delay that Frost.
Yeah, I mean,
this is so strong.
You can deny the Frost entirely for like 1.5 turns. Yeah, it's a really, really fantastic Armor Smith res. That card Restore obviously being the key component of what just happened, but easily 20 plus points.
Now, you were talking about Lacerate prior, right? But if he plays Kara before that Lacerate happens, he will prevent a lot of damage from it.
Yes, he would. And also, remember, ballistas will be getting armor from the siege support.
Yes.
So there are some things working against the Lacerate, but yeah, typically it's going to be that Kara. Could be absolutely huge.
This is a very exciting match. If JJ wins, this is great. This is an awesome game. Like seeing two very different deck styles going at it, and it's really cool. Superjj will advance to the finals if he wins this game, though. He is one victory away from making it to the finals, which, last time in the Gwent together, he made it to the semifinals. And these two players never met because they were in different brackets. And it's exciting, as we're going to see the Siege Master. First, the Siege Master, he wants to really preserve that Hensoldt for as late as possible so he can have the most targets he can. Yeah. And that's an excellent approach.
Absolutely. I'm wondering if we see the Lacerate now because he could know that Kira's coming.
Oh, such timing. That was so good.
240 IQ Lacerate comes out from Superjj.
That was insane. That was so... Oh, my Lord.
There we go. That's a fantastic card. But Kira is going to do value, and then we've seen what the ballistas can do. I mean, they really turn the tables very, very quickly indeed. But the points margin is looking big. But like I say, never underestimate that Hensoldt.
I'm telling you, like right now he's 40 points behind, but I'm not sure what's going to happen because the Kira Mets is 15 points herself, and Hensoldt is ridiculous.
Hensoldt
just look at this swing. Gonna go for the ballista. Target double ballista has two, as I call them, machine sockets. Look at this. Look at this. Look at these hits. He's killing his board. He's destroying his board. Oh my! Wait, he's actually got him.
Yeah, it's
he actually has him.
The power spike is so unbelievably powerful. JJ knows. You can see in his face.
Oh my Lord! That's the power. Like this entire match. That's incredible.
That's what I'm saying. It's like the point score is irrelevant until Hensoldt is played. It's so unbelievably strong as a finisher.
Wow, what a
Fantastic
game. That was one of my favorite games this weekend. That was excellent. I'm a big fan of machines. I don't know if I said that probably like a billion times, but that was
that was
like,
great. Like, honestly, that Hensoldt is just
40 points behind.
I get like nostalgic. It's like old. Do you remember like back in the old days with the Hensoldt finishes with Reaver Hunters and stuff?
Yeah.
Like, we're seeing that stuff come out again, and it's like, it's just amazing. Like, seeing Hensoldt all of a sudden just dropping for like 40 points is like, oh, I remember that.
Yeah. What a swing. That was beautiful
But
to
we
see.
get to see it.
We get to see
the Cracksman versus the Bran.
This one's going to be fun, too.
It's going to be a hell of a matchup to decide who progresses to today's final. This is going to be intense. Like, I think that the Cracksman deck is really interesting. Metranos running triple Lacerates, 2 Herbalists, double Gold Weather, triple Whale Harpooner, Goral R. There is so much in here to damage your opponent and buff up those Axemen.
The Armor Smith are going to be so key here. I think they're going to be the prime res target for JJ. While, again, we're in a situation in which Metranos has a deck that really thrives on a long round. But because of how carryover works, and he also, like, I would like to know, because when he goes for Morkvarg, he buffs it up to, I believe, he strengthens it to 12, right?
Yeah.
Which means that Morkvarg is 6 strength.
Morkvarg comes out at an 11 because it's damage.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean for like round 2.
Strength, yeah, it's 6.
So it's still less carryover power than what JJ has if he's able to time that Ceres. And all he needs to do to make sure that Ceres gets out in round 2 is first go King Bran, and step 2, go Warmonger into Clown on Clay Raider. You proc her twice by doing that, and then Morkvarg and Olgierd will get her out of the graveyard then.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see the double Gold Weathers in hand. That does give the option, but JJ knows this matchup. He has mulligan for those Armor Smiths, keeping them in hand, because he knows that, like, triple Priestess of Freya, double Armor Smith, that's him saying, this card is going to win me this matchup. And he could be correct, because honestly, that card is so influential in this game.
Really debating about whether to perhaps drop something that he could utilize in this particular matchup. Going for Ceres. I mean, the standard approach here is Olgierd, but he's really hovering over Doric Array because he does have Restore in his hand, and he wants to ensure that he can get that. But if he does do that, he misses out on Olgierd. Interesting. Oh, yeah,
he was fixing the order, yeah. You have to discard Ceres first so the timer ticks down.
Yeah.
But, yeah, this is a...
So no Olgierd, okay.
Yeah, pretty interesting. I mean, I feel like this is what top players do, right? They react to the matchups that they're in. They're saying, okay, he's going, okay, maybe I don't need the points from Olgierd. I can use something that's much, much more useful for me in this specific scenario. So I actually really, really do like the choice that he's just made there. Very flexible thinking when it comes to this matchup. However, Metranos faces... I feel like Metranos is in a funny position because he has so much, like, like attrition and removal. This is why I love this deck, because he's basically just got to spam it, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's just got to drop Gold Weathers, he's got to drop the Lacerates, he's got to drop the Whale Harpoon, he's just got to keep damaging things, getting that Axeman up as much as possible. But the Axeman is counterable. Lugos is sitting there. Lugos will kill the first Axeman drops.
Will drop, in one hit.
Coral is just such a core draw for JJ this game. Yeah. You just let an Axeman go to 40 points and then Coral it. Like, feels good.
War, my beloved. We see an early pass there for Metranos as JJ's going to go Clan Drummond. That's your clan, sorry. And pull out the Raider there and get Ceres down to 2 timers. But because he didn't go for Olgierd, Ceres is not going to get out of here. So, wait, was that pass as key as I'm thinking it was? Yes. Yes, he has the carryover advantage, which means that he can't open pass on him.
Yeah, that's a very, very...
Excellent pass by Metranos.
This is one of the best things about running Crack. I mean, Crack's been seeing a little bit more increased popularity recently because its synergy with Morkvarg is fantastic. Like,
and there we go, Roach loving JJ.
Roach loving JJ coming in the hand, saying, hey, what's up? But I think, Crack is seeing like a little bit more increased popularity because its synergy with Morkvarg is just so good. Like, it's fantastic. And for the mirror, it's great, as we're seeing here. Like, it's just absolutely brilliant. We're seeing the Warmonger just going to increase some deck efficiency, get some tempo on the board, get a discard. Decent way to take the round. Take the points. But yeah, Ceres does come out. That's a 16-point gap. Pretty nice.
JJ's in a little bit of... Yeah, he has to be careful. He really has to push hard this round, but he's in a similar predicament because of Metranos' his passing game, like his early passing game in these last couple of matches. He's put him in a spot in which because of the matchup, he has to push him. He has to take a lot out of him. But in the process of doing that, he really risks not being able to get that extra card out of him. And again, having one card, less in Gwen just makes the whole difference.
Yeah, absolutely. I think passing is something that Metranos has definitely focused on between day 1 and day 2.
Yeah.
I actually spoke to him at the end of day 1 and said, like, you had a couple of passes that, maybe looking back were slightly questionable. And he said, yeah, like, I'm aware a couple of my passes, especially the one against Spellscoitel, he was like, were completely just like non-ideal, like definitely hurt me in that situation. So I think it's something that he's been thinking about overnight a lot. Yeah. So I'm not surprised to see such focus on the passing game from Metranos.
Really nice to see him like at the top of his game, especially.
Oh, absolutely.
It was really funny what happened yesterday, but we were talking about like, because when he banned Aerithon.
Oh, that's so funny.
It's like, that's hilarious, but because he ended up winning, that's okay. It's funny, but if he would have lost because of that, that would have been
horrible.
So
it would have been one of those things that like is really funny but isn't, because it was so horrible. Yeah, no, he's such an awesome guy. They're a very positive player. Like, he was laughing about the whole Aerodon thing and like found it hilarious. But yeah, maybe if he'd lost, he wouldn't have found it so funny.
Yeah, I think so.
It's great to see him on top of his game though, banning the faction that he actually wanted to ban, and not passing round 1 against Spellscoitel. So it's good to see him on top of his game. It's gonna be time to put the Axeman down pretty soon because JJ is significantly ahead in points, and you need to get some tempo going to catch up.
Does Lugos have any way of killing the Axeman now? I believe not, because
with
the
a 9
clan.
Strength, no.
Yeah, because the Warmonger is only 9 strength in round 3. He's gonna go for Restore though. Interesting. Will he play the same? Will he play the Dorgare this round? Or?
Yeah, I'll move the Drowner away, maybe.
Our world is in harmony.
Or he may just take Imara to
he may just take Imara, yeah. I mean, even if he moves it away with the Drowner, he's just going to have to recommit to moving it back with Harpooners and stuff to kill it. Although it does open up the option for Lugos to kill it. But, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, Lugos can kill it if he Drowners it. Because it would get buffed to 6. That's an easy kill for Lugos.
The problem is if he consumes the Warmonger, which is the most likely target, he's missing out on potential value from Armor Smith. But because of how much damage Metranos' deck is going to deal anyways, he's going to find that value regardless. So I really like this play. Yeah, and this is what, knowing what your opponent's deck list is made of comes into play. Because if Metranos was playing Geralt Dickney, he would obliterate him here.
Great place for Ulderic right now for Metranos, though.
Yeah.
Able to drop that in the middle row, set up the drought damage, and also you just have...
The problem is I'm not sure if it's the proper moment to do it because you're
significantly behind. It would get the pass out,
it's
but
risky.
you're 2 cards up anyway, so like you can drop back to equal cards.
Yeah.
And like an 8-card round when you're playing like Gold Weather and Lacerates and Harpooners, it's not really what JJ wants to face.
Yeah.
Like honestly, JJ wants to bleed him out probably.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Like actually, the timing could be very efficient because of that. Because he knows that JJ doesn't want to pass. That's one of the reasons. That's the main reason he lost the match against Hensoldt. He was forced to pass a little bit too early. Like he needed to push him a little bit more, but wasn't able to because of the risk of not. Retaining that card advantage lost by going down 1 card.
So he's going to focus in on that Ekomara, trying to deny some of this carryover. But
good play.
It is a big old Ekomara, but a nice little bit of tempo on the Axeman too. But that Ekomara is going to need a little bit more killing than that.
Yep. But he does have the resources to do so.
He certainly does. He's not short of cards that deal damage.
Yeah.
Double Herbalist is not something that you see too often. Pretty rare. Even in Axeman decks. I mean, I like to run a single Herbalist. It's very, very, very strong devotion to the Axeman. I'll put it that way.
Very nice set of games between these 2 players, who also happen to be very close friends. It's very nice display, especially with that Hensoldt machine. And this mirror is very exciting, actually, because of how different the decks are.
Yeah, it's fantastic to see a factional mirror just like where they're playing so differently. Like we have a very almost like defensive play style of the discarding and the armor smiths with JJ into like the absolute, fury storm of the Axeman. Just playing all the weathers, all the lacerates, all the harpooners. I think that...
I like the timing of that first armor smith, by the way.
Yeah, I like the armor smith timing here, but I do like Metranos' hand. I mean, the herbalists are maybe a little bit overkill. They represent 11 value, 9 from the lacerate, 2 from the herbalist. That's okay, but it's not that's like an anti-monster tech, right? You want to hit a unit with like a row with like 8 units on it. But we do have harpooners. Harpooners are just great value. He can just spam these to catch up.
And we will definitely be targeting that Ekimara. But he's hovering over Dorgare. And he does have the combo himself of Dorgare and Restore available to him for the last round. Even though he is running this kind of like Axeman build, he's still why not play Restore? Like even if you are playing like a different sort of deck, Restore is just so good. as a silver.
Restore is like, it's the Restore Dark Array package, right? Like, no matter what you're playing, even if you're doing it for a Drowner, which fits into Axeman way better, it is just an undeniably very, very, very powerful card that is often discussed in the community right now. But yeah, I think Restore is a very influential card, and it's basically a lock for Scorch right now.
Yeah, this is the key turn for JJ. Unfortunately, he can't really afford to play anymore if he wants to get an extra card out of Metranos and go even into the last round. But this is what he was. This is the same scenario he was in the prior match against Hensoldt. So we're going to see if he's going to take the same approach or if he's going to continue to push and just be okay with that. But that's very risky because he knows his opponent, even though his deck thrives in a long round, he's still got a lot of similar cards and he still runs Restore. So having one card under him in round 3, if it's a very short round 3, he's going to really have to count on his carryover to make the difference there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be a very, very close game, to be honest. Both decks have outstanding strength in different departments, but the Armorsmiths will be core. And remember, now that an Armorsmith, yes, an Armorsmith is spent this round, but because Skellige and Priestess of Freya's, it is available next round too. So at least double Armorsmith coming out for JJ.
Yeah, I think that's a good assessment. I think that's what's going to happen. You can also make a... the thing is, because the Axemen have the veteran tag, so at this point, Lugos is just not going to be able to knock them out, right?
Yeah, Lugos struggles. I mean, if one was dropped right now, he can with a Warmonger, but next round he can't, because an Axeman goes to 7, deploys and gets 2 armor. So, yeah, Lugos cannot immediately kill the Axeman. What can kill the Axeman is Whale Harpooning them, then Lugosing them. But it's a difficult one to hit for sure.
This is the point. This Armorsmith, though. This Armorsmith is nuts.
A super nice Armorsmith.
Look at that. Not bad. But still, this is a point of no return. JJ has decided to take a different approach from the last game and actually go in deeper in this round. But he's going to sacrifice.
It's interesting when you consider that he has a Roach in hand.
Yeah. Definitely, I think he's gonna preserve all his reses and potentially Madman Lugos. This may be his last play, and he's really banking on this armor to stall out the drought for one turn and give Metranos trouble catching up. But 14 points is very easy. This is too easy for him. Yep. That
JJ's got to pass on this now, right?
It's funny because the body of the Herbalist made the difference there.
Potentially, an Armorsmith would do the work, but JJ facing quite a significant uphill to try and get that extra card out of Metranos right now. Personally, this may just have to be a -1 for JJ.
This is super intense.
This is very, very intense. Remember, this is the final game in this best of 5 series. Whoever wins this is going on to today's final, which is very, very important for both these players. JJ, obviously, both players are extremely dedicated, but JJ, super laser focus after that Scorch in the first game. He's got to claw this one back.
You can make an argument for him hitting Morkvark to make it weaker for the next round.
Yeah, you could actually.
He may do that because he may just acknowledge that he's not gonna get ahead at this point.
I mean, yeah, it would reduce carryover, but I think he's just going for the deck efficiency instead. Because if you mulligan into that Raider, you're gonna have a bad time.
Boren just stands in here.
Right to the last second, that Raider comes out.
I don't know if I agree with that play. He lost a res for, he's still gonna be able to get Ceres out, right? But
he's gonna get Ceres out. I think
he's really trying to get that out of him. He's really trying to make it so that he can't make any sort of play. But at this point, with this board development, it's
I think the important thing is he's got to get that Raider out of his deck because he has to mulligan Roach next round. And so if he draws that Raider, it's horrible, right? He has to try and get his deck as efficient as possible.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because he has to mulligan away that Roach.
Yeah.
You're correct. Yes.
But honestly, this is looking at these hands is really, really quite powerful for Metranos right now. But
this is fascinating.
JJ has significant resurrects. He's got the Restored Dorg Array. He's got Armorsmiths. In a short round, Armorsmiths will just kill that Ragnarok dead.
Oh man, he knocked out the Ekimara, punishing JJ for pushing him to this point. I don't know, man. He has Ceres and he has carryover advantage, definitely, but one card less. This is very scary, especially when you consider the fact that your opponent still hasn't played Restore, and he has it just waiting right there in his hand.
Yeah, I mean, I think this game is extremely close right now.
I think we're going to see Freya into Akimara here.
Ooh, yes, actually, we could see that, couldn't we? There is an excess of Freya, but, Armor Smiths are decent value cards on their own. If you're denying that Ragnarok, and he knows Metranos runs double weathers. The thing is, Metranos hasn't thinned through his deck especially, so he could be banking on not having double weather, but it's a risky play.
He's actually going to drop Roach. I like this.
Yes, he's going to bleed. It's a free bleed, right?
I like this. I like this approach. It also makes it so that he can mulligan better next round, and he needs that.
Yeah.
Hey, he obviously you miss out on the extra potential strength that he could provide you with if you were to top deck a gold card, but
yeah, but I think the value of bleeding out an extra card from Marksman and making the round even shorter next round, it's well worth it. To be honest, I agree with that play from JJ. But yeah, the amount of red numbers on his side of the board, it's potentially time to get out this round.
It's hot in there. It's definitely hot in there. That drought.
Metranos is wondering what he can spend right now.
Yeah, I think. Oh man, Alderic.
I would like to see the Alderic come out earlier. I think it was pretty clear that JJ was going to push this round. But yeah, I think the Alderic may well come out.
The problem is he plays Alderic, it's still not enough. Like you would have to play another card, so he's really hovering over. Like but that's like the predicament he's facing there. I like the fact that he's dropping the Axeman. I think Axeman will not really represent that much power in a short round 3.
Oh no, absolutely not.
So I like him dropping that.
Yeah,
if he really needs it, he can resurrect it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if he gets like a perfect draw, maybe he gets another Lacerate out or something, Whale Harpooner, he can resurrect it. But yeah, an Axeman isn't going to be the biggest value. I think that the main value for him has got to come from that big restore.
JJ really debating whether to go for the Ekimara with Freya. I think at this point you do. Like, you need to make the round as short as possible and try to get the most. You're going to be down one card. You have to have a bunch of carryover. And going for Ekimara here could be a winning play for him. But he does not opt to do that. He's actually going to pass here.
Yeah, he goes to the pass because, I mean, the reses are super important, right? Like, he knows that there's a lot of damaging cards coming out. Having those Armor Smiths and being able to res something else as well is super important. So, I think that's actually, like, two very equal trains of thought. I think, like, yeah, you're a card down. The Ekimara is really nice to have. But at the same time, I do like keeping the extra reses when you're facing something where, like, Armor Smith is such a core card. But I wonder where his points are coming from because, like, Metranos, he has his damage, but that restore is still sitting there, and that's going to be a really
Sigdrifa, though, is going to be massive here.
Sigdrifa is going to be huge, yes.
All right, let's see that carryover.
Very nice draws on both sides.
Oh yeah, okay. He kept all 3 reses because I forgot Morkvarg was not going to come back this time around, so he needed those triple reses to get Ceres out.
Yeah.
If he didn't preserve that's what he was debating. Okay.
So he's got. Oh man, the Alderic Premium is fantastic. Shieldsmith comes out, not going to be.
Metranos' hand is not looking extremely powerful. I mean, double Freya and Restore is very nice, but Shieldsmith is a rather weak card in this round, and Ragnarok is also not looking as threatening really, even though Whale Harpooners can change that.
Yeah, I think
this Yennefer is awkward too. Though.
I think Yennefer is pretty awkward. But what you got to do is you got to do this. You get like your Dorigaray out, get a bunch of units on the board, try to establish like.
He could drown her, his own unit, to prevent 2 damage, but I think that's still less value than.
You drop a Savage Bear, go full YOLO Savage Bear mode. But it's like, I think he's got to get as many units on the board to try and make space for that Yennefer to give him benefits, right?
He's actually going to drown with that.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, it's like Olgierd already has.
It's worth 9 strength basically. Like this play is worth 9 strength, which is the same as a Wyvern. And Savage Bear would actually represent a little bit more, but at the same time, it would be taking hits. So like it's a big difference, like the fact that there's nothing more on that. Because Savage Bear is one of the few units left that is row locked, unfortunately.
It is indeed. I think this is actually quite nice though because it means that he can let Dorigaray get hit by the Ragnarok down to 6. And then from there, he can then Armor Smith and heal Olgierd and Dorigaray, which is a nice bit.
This is a very strong strategy. This is very strong. Like if it goes his way in that sense, if he's able to get a huge Armor Smith in the end, that may be enough to overpower Metranos, despite him having an extra card over him.
Yeah, it's actually a good point. I think it's here comes the Axeman rest, but I mean it's a short round. The Axeman's not going to be doing too much. He's going to tick up nicely, It basically adds 1 point of damage per turn.
It's like 10 or 11 points, so 11 points, I think. Yeah, so that's still pretty good for a bronze card. Like it's a 12-point Freya, but he wants the.
think he might be afraid of the Lacerate there. I think that's a play around Lacerate to move the Axeman off the row that would be getting lacerated, because of course that takes 5.
Excellent
It takes
play.
5 value away from Lacerate.
Yep. Excellent play by JJ. That's such great foresight right there.
Yeah, it's really good. It's like JJ's meticulous play in a nutshell. It's a very good play. I mean, there's no Lacerate there. Don't tell him. But
well, he's playing 3 Lacerates, so he can res an Herbalist and pick it up. What?
Herbalist.
Oh yeah, I haven't played the.
Yeah, we both don't know what Doom does. It's fine.
Down going the Armor Smith. It's just basically a 9 strength play.
Come on, quick now.
Wow, this is super interesting because right now the card state is equal, but still JJ's in the lead. Though Ragnarok is hitting down, that Armor Smith is representing so much value. Though, is he gonna go for it now? He's gonna go for it now.
Yeah, that's what you had to do. You had to let Dora Grey get hit down to 6, because otherwise it's going to start swapping.
Yeah, true.
But he's actually going to heal probably the Harpooner.
Yep.
Yeah.
Such a good play.
Off
Oh
the
man.
Ragnarok.
And not the good spot
Cyrus,
though.
that's not
Oh, this
where
is so
you go.
intense.
But this is
He has
actually-
restored. Oh my god, this match.
But this was actually a really important res to get all that out, because it's setting the token state of the board way in favor
for
of JJ.
Yennefer, yes.
So that Yennefer's going to be really fantastic. It's going to come
right
right
now-
down to the wire in this final match.
Right now it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's got 6 in the back, 7, 8, 9. If his opponent does a res, he will have a total of 6. So he only has like 3 more units as his opponent after this fray.
It'll be 4 more, because he'll drop a Yennefer. So it goes.
Oh yeah. You're up in there for. So it's gonna be a total of 8 points then over the opponent with the unicorn plus the value of Yennefer.
17 points.
Yeah.
On the Yennefer.
So that's will that be enough? Because this restore is going to be very massive, and but the Armor Smith was very well timed too. This is such a good game.
This is
such a
fantastically
good
close
series.
game. But like, we're seeing the value of that extra card, right? It's going to allow for another turn of Ragnarok ticks, which is going to be really key.
Oh, and this Drowner.
is
Oh
huge.
my. Oh man. And gonna buff the Axeman in the process. Oh boy.
Yeah, that's a really
Oh
good Drowner.
man. This is so intense.
Oh my goodness.
They are tied. What's
think-
gonna be stronger?
I think this is Metranos.
Yeah, this is Metranos. He's gonna get that will Harpooner that he's gonna resurrect is gonna be massive.
Yeah. Oh, this is
Super
so
JJ
close.
with a 15-point
This
lead.
is so
He will lose a total of 1, 2, and 4 points next turn because of Ragnarok, which will drop him down to 63. Metranos needs a play that is
11
12 points or
Will
higher.
Harpooner does it.
Yeah, Will Harpooner just does it. Metranos gonna take this. Wow.
Oh my
Just
goodness.
wow. Even after JJ took a different approach and opted to push for the fact that his opponent had an extra card is gonna make the difference. Will Harpooner is gonna hit the
My
board,
goodness.
and Metranos is going to advance to the finals of
Metranos' gold
Gwentslam
weather
2.
does it.
What a match! What
Whoa.
a series! What a set of
my
games!
goodness.
That was
What
amazing.
A set of games. That was amazing. We saw Cracksman, amazing machine gameplay, Bruverhoogs. That was a fantastic series of Gwen. Absolutely amazing. Well played to both players. That was so close. Literally coming down to the final card.
Yeah.
Like you said, that one card advantage just gave him the game.
Metranos with his passing game, which is, it seems like he did a